This is what Scott Pruitt had been waiting 6 months for. The relief of winning with his sports car rookie teammate, overwhelming. And the belief he can win a second Rolex Sports Car Championship, very real. The series now swings south to Alabama's incredible Barber Motorsports Park. The twisty, undulating terrain offers a chance for the chasers. Will the axe chop into Pruitt's lead? Will Gainsco put a policy on the title? Or will we see those who should have been to victory lane buy the right ticket? It's Daytona Prototypes, Southern style, next on Speed. As a racing venue, they don't come much better than the spectacular Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. And today, the Rolex Sports Car Series visits the South for the Porsche 250. It's always a delight visiting the beautiful Barber Motorsports Park, and it's again in magnificent shape for this, the 10th round of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Hi everyone, Lee Diffie along with Dorsey Schrader and Calvin Fish. Cal, we'll get to you in just a moment. Dorsey, you first up. It's our 5th consecutive year here at Barber. The last 4 years, no repeat winners, but that could all change here today.
Well, you're right about that. Jörg Bergmeister sits in the front row, and he's on a bit of a roll, I should say. He won yesterday at Mid-Ohio, but it didn't come easy for the Ruby Tuesday team. In fact, when they unloaded here, they had power steering problems, and it wasn't the same kind of problem they normally have where the power steering under heavy load just fails. This car wanted to steer by itself to the right, and it really frustrated the team. They looked at the car, they just gave up, basically threw in the towel, took it all apart, every nut and bolt, rebuilt the entire front of the car and back of the car, and went out and found some magic. Jörg, unfortunately, isn't on the pole. He's outside the front row in second place. The 99 Gainsco car, once again, out of nowhere. It wasn't in the top 3 of any of the practice sessions, but come qualifying, push the pass button or whatever they got, buddy, it's up there again.
Yes, it has happened once again. The 99 Gainsco Pontiac Riley starts from pole, and Brian Till is with the boys.
Well, the number 99 Gainsco car started from the front row in every race this season. 7 poles, 6 in a row. And John, as dominant as you guys have been in the second half of the season, you lost a couple of points to Pruitt at the last round in Iowa. You start up front today, but with 4 races left, is time running out?
Time's for sure running out. You know, the point structure in the series is such that we kind of need to win and they have to not finish. So we're doing everything we can, putting the Gainsco Auto Insurance car on the front row as a start to this weekend here at Barber Motorsports Park. But, you know, don't wish any ill fortune upon those guys, but it would be just our luck if they didn't have a good race.
Well, the 23 car having a great run. You talked about Jörg Bergmeister, his win at Mid-Ohio yesterday in the ALMS competition. That means Patrick Long has done most of the work this weekend. And Patrick, you end up with a great race car, best qualifying of the year for your team. But can it be strong enough to do battle with the 99?
We're going to have to wait and see. These guys have been strong, like you just talked about, all year. We've done our homework. We think we've got a car that we can run with. We like this place with Barber. A lot of high-speed flowing sections where we keep that Porsche engine revved up. It's a home race for us with the Ruby Tuesday people out, so we want to do really well for them.
And John Fogarty and Alex Gurney would like to see the 23 do well, but in their rearview mirrors, they need to pad the points between themselves and Scott Pruitt, guys.
Yes, let's take a look at those all-important points, because the key figure there is the 15-point margin that Scott Pruitt has over Max Angelelli. He enhanced his championship lead a week ago at Iowa with that all-too-important victory. Gurney and Fogarty a further 7 back, then Rojas and Brown and Pappas. But we will turn our focus on Angelelli, who, Calvin, once again, he finds himself in an interesting but all too familiar, all too common situation.
He does, Lee. Another new cool driver this weekend as his 5th different teammate this year. Now, some of that has been through choice, some of it through circumstance. In fact, Mamo Gidley has replaced Jonathan Cochet, who should have been here this weekend, but he had some immigration issues. Now, we know Mamo is fast, but I think at this critical stage of the championship season, the last thing you want to do is to try and develop chemistry on a single race weekend. I think next year, Wayne Taylor and the SunTrust organization will try and do things a little bit differently. On the other hand, I certainly understand the change with the Krone team. Max Pappas, Colin Brown have really struggled to get a setup that's compatible to both drivers. And this weekend they've made a change. They brought Nick Johnson in from within the Krone Racing organization from the 76 to the 75. I understand this move. Nick's a proven commodity with the team. He's very fast, and I think most importantly, he's a left foot braker like Colin Brown. The results have already been proven in qualifying, where Nick qualifies in 3rd spot.
Several significant changes, several drivers in different seats, and Chris Neville is with them to see what it's like.
Well, Max Angelelli has his 5th different driver this season, and Mamo, this is a great opportunity for you. But this isn't about you. This is about trying to get Max closer in that championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the SunTrust team, they're going after the 01 car, and it's great that Kevin Dorn allowed me to come here this weekend and be part of the SunTrust team, and I'm really happy about that. And I'm going to do everything possible to give Max the car in the best position so he can go chase after that championship.
Also changes in the 75 car, Nick Janssen moving from the 76 over to Colin Brown. Nick, there's been a lot of changes with that car. Finally, is this the last piece of the puzzle to get you guys back in victory lane?
Well, we would hope so. I mean, obviously the team has to do something because we're also chasing the championship, obviously. And, what's better to, than just mix it up a little bit in the team and see, what we can get out of this.
Well, and it was the 75 car that won this race last year.
And Chris, will see if they can do it again, but heat, humidity, two very important factors here today. Great crowd on hand, incidentally. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And powered by Pontiac and the 260 horsepower Solstice GXP. You join us as the cars roll for the first time here at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama, and as they work their way towards green, we're going to work our way towards the Lexus track map. Dorsey, talk us through.
Well, it's a beautiful facility, no question about that. 2.3 miles in length, and with 15 turns, it's very much a handling track. No big straightaways. The passing zones, well, the brake zone here into turn 1 and again into turn 5 are the two of the best. There's 80 foot of elevation change, and most of that occurs in this area. So it's a very interesting track. Handling's got to be spot on the money.
Thanks, Dors. There are your key points, folks. Now we've got a special guest commentator who will talk you around this amazing little circuit.
Hey, what's up? It's Patrick Long, co-driver of the 23 Alex Job Ruby Tuesday Crawford. This is Barber Motorsport Park, one lap around, into turn 1, down to third gear, car gets light, pick up the throttle, rush it down into turn 2, long radius corner, lots of patience needed here. Pick up the power, roll the throttle on, get lots of speed up over the top of the hill, flat out over the crest, all the way up to fourth gear, down into turn 5, one of the best braking zones here. Get the car in late, down into the apex, trail the brake in, check your mirror, first gear, roll the power on, be real patient here, lots of wheel spin, a little bit off camera as you exit the corner. All the way up to fourth gear, down into turn 7 and 8, very difficult section. A little bit of a corkscrew where you got a right, left, right. The car gets light, you use lots of curbs here, defend on the inside. Again, patient on throttle. First gear in the Porsche, all the way up, get it up into fourth gear, and lots of speed into the 910 complex. This is a fast chicane, not even a full lift here. It's about 140 miles an hour as you come up into the 11 and 12 section. It's a downhill, another bit of a corkscrew theory, but you've got a blind exit, so you've got to get real set up over the crest. Up over turn 12, car gets a little light at the crest. Down into the 13-14 complex, another passing zone. Defend on the inside when you have pressure. Get it down into second gear. Watch oversteer as it comes quick. Roll the throttle on in second gear into the last corner. Get a real good shot off onto the front straightaway for what's another passing zone down back into turn 1. And that's your lap at Barber Motorsport Park.
Thank you, Patrick Long. Great job. Interesting stuff. So there's the track. You're up to date with that as the starting grid rolls across the top of your screen with thanks to Ruby Tuesday. We've told you about the heat and humidity, who has qualified well, who has been seat swapping. Brian, what else do we need to know?
Well, the one thing we need to think about, Lee, is no GT traffic here. Another split race here in the 2007 Rolex Series. And what that means for these Daytona prototype drivers is two things. First of all, they don't have that GT traffic. A lot of the prototype drivers like it because they can use those slower GT cars as a pick. They can place them between the other prototypes and get a little bit of a lead on a guy, use them as a strategy. The other thing is those GT cars, well, they're good for a yellow or two. In the GT race yesterday, as they ran alone, only one full course caution. So without that additional cars on the racetrack, you don't have as many problems on the racetrack. And that means if you're driving a prototype and you have an issue, the idea that a full course caution is going to come out for a GT car problem has been diminished, and you're going to have a hard time making that lap back up. So some of these prototype guys missing the GT cars. Chris, what have you got?
Brian, when you look at the results from the 0-1 the past 2 seasons, it really hasn't excelled here, and that's because of 2 reasons. Scott Pruitt's driving style and the makeup of the racetrack. When you look at the corners around the racetrack, typically they're downhill, kind of falling away from the car, and they're very long corners. Scott Pruitt's driving style is all about attack. He wants to get deep into the brake zones, pivot the car, and then back to the throttle hard. Now, the team has not encouraged him to change that driving style. It's all been about trying to find the right setup on the car. They feel they finally have nailed that, so we might see more of a typical Ganassi finish here today.
It's been a far from perfect weekend thus far, though, for the 01 Telmex Ganassi Riley. Take a look at this earlier in the weekend, and Mexican Memo Rojas was behind the wheel. Quite incredible scenes, really.
Well, watch this now. He gets in the gravel, and it's burying the car, literally. Now he gets on the brakes, and he's online. Look at that, all coming out of there. It absolutely filled the race car completely full, including there. This is the intake for the engine. That's all going down through the throttle body.
He has a new nickname now, Pebbles.
I asked him how you say that in Spanish, and he said, well, we don't really have that word in Spanish, but I've heard everybody's calling me it, so I think it's going to stick. Here's our 6-pack of onboards for you, and it's great to have the 11 Samax Pontiac Riley with Chris Sekeres behind the wheel, top right, as we get ready to go green. Round 10 of the Rolex Sports Car Series, the Porsche 250 from Birmingham, Alabama, and Pat Long, the Ruby Tuesday car, looking good.
There we see Gidley being very aggressive there, nearly making contact with Nick Janssen.
You got to really watch getting off. You saw what happened. His nose splitter dug in, started throwing grass up. Again, right there, the 0-1 in trouble.
Wow, runs wide, loses several more positions. This is tough stuff. We ride with Mark Patterson down into turn 5 for the first time, right behind Rojas.
The key for Rojas is mistake-free. He has to give this car back to championship leader Scott Pruitt in good shape here today.
Now you got to wonder if both of those cars went off with their noses down, shoveling all that dirt up. Did it fill the radiator inlet up or not? That's a big concern here.
I think the Gainsco team will be very impressed that John Fogerty got the start here, because remember, Pat Long is really not a championship contender. He can afford to be aggressive here in the early going.
It was a nice early jump from Long, but then Fogerty went through with it. We ride with Gidley. What a massive opportunity this is for Memo. One of the most liked drivers in the paddock. And it's not the first time that he's had a big call-up in his career either, is it? Remember back when he got the magic call from Chip Ganassi back in the kart days.
Just amazes me that Memo has so much talent, yet he's not been able to hang on to one of those rides long-term. He's kind of become a journeyman, but every time he gets in a car, he impresses.
39 Crown Royal Special Reserve is in. This is the Pontiac powered Fab car. Harrison Bricks, Christian Fittipaldi. Christian is behind the wheel.
This, of course, will do their 45-minute rule stop. All cars must stop in the first 45 minutes to a complete stop. He takes on fuel. All he did right there was take on a little bit of fuel, and that's their 45-minute obligation. It's done now.
I think they're making that call because of the poor qualifying performance. Speaking to Christian Fittipaldi this morning, he said, I believed in practice we had a P2, P3 car. We made a change. The car got loose, and consequently he qualified well down in the order.
Red Bull Brumos Porsche of Darren Law did the GT race yesterday. Here's a replay on the opening lap. Check the white and blue 0-1 Telmex Ganassi car. Darren Law just tags the right rear of Memo Rojas.
Take a look on the onboard, see more like what it looks like from the everybody shuffling about.
Fittipaldi in the thick of it also. There you see the tab. Memo controlled it quite well, so not his fault there, just heavy action in the early laps.
This is a narrow racetrack, 45 feet wide. It was built for motorcycle racing, so side-by-side racing like that tends to leave very little room for error.
Saw Darren just a short while ago at lunch, and he said the heat in the cockpit is unbelievable. They're thinking about maybe even doing an extra driver rotation just to look after he and David Donahue.
He also spoke about the experience that he gained yesterday in the GT event. He said the track got incredibly slippery, the race cars went loose, and consequently what they've done with the 58 machine right here is to set it out with a little bit more neutral to understeer balance right now at the beginning, praying that it will go loose on them and they'll have a good car at the end of the race.
Well, for whatever reason this year, the Barber Motorsports Park, the racing surface in the mid-afternoon sun, the oil comes up from the track. It's been very, very greasy. Everybody's had to change and throw away the setups that they ran here for the last couple of years and adapt to this new type of racetrack.
Good early run here from Shane Lewis. Currently sits in 6th position behind Darren Law, ahead of Memo Rojas. And then Mark Wilkins, the young Canadian driver in the AIM Autosport, Lexus Riley, immediately behind him. And tell us more about the 61, Brian.
You guys talked about 2 driver changes. AIM will do the same thing with Wilkins in that car. They'll switch out with Burt Frizzell. They'll do that driver change twice, and we're hearing they're not going to take the time on the second change to recharge the cool suit. And Dorsey, that may lead to a very hot race car in that last stint.
That's a bad call on their part, Brian, because if that cool suit does not work on that last stint, well, that driver is going to melt. Those people making that decision have never sat in one of these race cars when it's in its angriest mode.
Shane Lewis having a great run here. This team is so impressive. They do so much with so little. And he's got another new teammate as well. We talk about Nick Johnson and Memo Gidley changing seats. Well, Guy Cosmo has switched to the 3-car. Randy Ruhlman had commitments with a NASCAR Busch test, so he's not here this weekend. So new teammate for Shane Lewis.
That's the car that Mark Martin drove just a week ago at Iowa Speedway and thoroughly enjoyed himself and may have taught some of our Rolex sports car boys about starting.
He did that on the oval.
Looks on the inside.
Had a look too far back, couldn't really make the move, so just thinking ahead, I think, Dorsey, right now, figuring out where he has an advantage over Shane.
You got to be so careful here, Calvin, because of that 45-foot width I told you about. You know, you have to almost make sure that you can get your passes done before the corner entry, because if you go side by side through the corner, A, there's not very much room, and B, if you make it, it's at a very reduced speed.
Saw a lot of steering input there on the 3 machines that came through that tight section. And again, we're thinking that the balance of these race cars will change from an understeer to a more loose condition as the laps go down.
3 Lexus-powered Rileys, all running together here. 6th, 7th, and 8th. The order is Fogarty, then Long, then Nick Johnson in 3rd, then Memo Gidley in the SunTrust 10, then Darren Law. That's how your top 5 sits. Rojas starting to increase the pressure here on Shane Lewis. Behind this trio is Mark Patterson in 9 and Hurley Hayward in the top 10.
So tough, Dorsey, when you're attacking and defending at the same time. You can't afford to leave the door open. And here we see Nick Johnson starting to make some progress, getting close to the Ruby Tuesday car. Krohn had a great 2-day test here. They said they went in a completely different way with the setup, and it really worked here. They then went to Daytona in Iowa. It did not work at that track, but they're coming back here. The car's been strong all week long.
Here's Brian with more on these 2 cars.
Guys, a lot of people surprised to see the 23 up front, the only Crawford in the field, and that Porsche engine around this very tight racetrack. Some people thought that that would be a detriment, but I just checked with Alex Jobe. He said, we've got a really good car. We are going to win this thing. But you look at the 75, Janssen doing a great job right now. Spoke to them earlier. They saved tires for this race. They've got 3 brand new sets of tires for the race, and Nick said the good thing is not only do we have new tires, but we ran all weekend long on old tires, and I can tell you the car is very fast and very consistent on those old tires. This car should be good on long runs.
Speaking more about the 75 Krone Racing Pontiac, no matter what the team tells us or tells the public, you have to feel for Max Pappas. And you two being former drivers, how is he taking this right now? I mean, I'm sure he's taking it professionally because he has to. That's his profession. But Pat Long gets a little squirrely there. But it's got to hurt, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm sure it does hurt. There's no question. I talked with Max about it. And you're right. He's going to say the politically correct thing to say. But he also said, you know what? We found a setup and testing on this car. The car is going to be really good. It's going to break my heart if it wins. And it wins when I'm not in the car. It's going to make me look bad.
All right. Well, let's hear from the man himself. He's with Brian.
Max Pappas here watching the 76 car, and Tracy Cronin. Max, new opportunity for you this weekend. Give Tracy a little bit different insight. It seems to be paying off right now. He's having a good run.
Absolutely. We're extremely pleased with Tracy's performance. You know, this is one of the best starts he ever had, and you know, he asked me to come over here and help him out to win the Truman Award, so we are here for this, and you know, I'm going to give the best I can. We came here with a different setup, and looks like this setup is paying off. Both cars are running very fast, so hopefully this time could be a good time to be both cars on the podium.
Krone Racing looking for championships both in the drivers and in the Truman Award, guys.
Well, let me tell you one thing about Nick Johnson in the 75 car anyway. That car was on top of the speed charts at every one of these sessions until qualifying. It was the quickest car, so we really thought it would take the pole. However, they made a change right before qualifying. They went too far. The car just didn't stand like it should have, and he fell back. But watch this 75 because I think he's capable of winning.
The other thing Nick said, he said they'd done a lot of running on old tires to have a good race setup, and they kind of lost the balance a bit when they went to fresh tires for qualifying. So that's a real key part. If you keep running on well-worn tires, when you put fresh rubber at it changes the balance.
You just saw Tracy Crone put a move on Matt Al-Haddad. They're battling over 12th at the moment. on board with Al Haddaf, and a short while ago these two came together. Let's take you back and take a look at that. Al Haddaf looks for the inside. That was close on Tracy Crone. Here's that replay now. This is what happened earlier. You're on board with Al Haddaf, Tracy Crone up ahead.
Coming down into turn 5.
Well, you know, we've seen this before. Tracy has a hard time with the back corner of that car, being able to see out the back, and he's unaware when people get in that blind spot. He just, for some reason, he doesn't sense that the car's there.
It seemed like Matt really didn't match the downshift very well in making that move as well. Now we see problems. The 11 car, Zakiris, is around.
And Hurley Haywood's involved. There's damage to the left side of that Brumos Porsche.
So 4 cars involved at that one right there.
This is the second time in a week that Zakiris has been hit.
Smoke up ahead means there's a tire rub on one of these cars. Oh, look at that. It's the 76. It's got the whole left front pushed up. Needs a new nose now.
This will be a key part of the strategy, sorry, Lee, in terms of if we see any caution thrown here for any debris, because we've got that 45-minute rule. Remember, Christian Fittipaldi pitted, and he was then praying that we saw a subsequent yellow. And there you see damage to the 6 machine. He's picked up with that bodywork from Tracy Crone.
He hit Tracy Crone as he tried to get by. And now he's got part of Tracy's back corner, I think.
This is looking ugly, Doss.
Is it under the tire? I think it is.
He was having trouble steering that car, John Pugh. Still no yellow. Tracy Crone dives for pit road. Pugh stayed out. Zakiris follows Tracy in.
Wow, well, that's not, this is a bad start. There you see the damage and the part of the Crone.
Still no call on a yellow. I think we're going to stay green. Here's the replay.
See what happens here. It's up in front. There's the 11. It's already around. Tracy hits the 11 pretty hard. That's what caused the damage to the 76. Another look here. Up ahead.
On board with Zakiris. I don't know whether he just lost himself or whether the 59 machine was involved from behind, Dorsey.
Kind of hard to say. Here's the second incident with the 6. They bounce off one another, sends a 6. 2 wheels off there. Good save, I should say.
Brian?
Tracy Crone sits in his car right now. Crew going to work. They've replaced the tires, filled it with fuel as you would expect, and now it's time to go to work on the nose. The interesting thing is there's a big hit on the left front, the bodywork pushed back in. Be interesting to see if there's any suspension damage. They will not know that and radiator damage until they get the nose off, Chris.
Well, Chris Zakiris was also in. They pulled a couple green Crone body parts out of that car, so some parts stuck into the car from the Crone car when he got into it behind the right front wheel, but the team filled it up, put new tires on, and it didn't look like too much damage other than that.
So back up front, here's race leader John Fogarty. 2.5 second lead margin at the moment. And he's coming up on the ailing Chris Zakiris.
And we're hearing that that car might have radiator damage, which will require it to come to pit lane. If it has radiator damage, it's probably leaking.
This is the one with the radiator damage.
That's the one I'm talking about, right.
John Pugh brings it into the Mike Shank pit.
That's not a radiator, that's overheating.
Guys, it's overheating because the radiator full of grass. Crew members right now moving that grass out of the way, and you see the bodywork jammed on the front splitter here. It's part of the nose from Tracy Crone's car. That's been removed now, but a lot of grass in this car in the radiator. And the question is, how hot has that engine gotten? Has it overheated? Has it done damage, guys?
Did it put down on the racetrack? That's the next question.
Now, did I see a driver change there? Did Ian James climb aboard that there? Or was it a little too fast? I think he may have. I think Ian may have taken over from John Pugh at a very early opportunity in this race. Time for a break. We're live at Barber. More right after this. If you're after in-depth analysis, detailed driver stats, breaking news, and a whole lot more, log on to the most powerful online team in NASCAR. And it is, of course, foxsports.com and speedtv.com. We're back to a hot and humid afternoon here in Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park. And while we're away, there has been a full course yellow thrown, the first one for this 109-lap race or 2.5-hour event, whichever comes first. And it's our first one for debris on track.
Well, that's not surprising with all that just went on a little while ago. About 3 or 4 different cars whacking around on each other. Of course, Tracy Crone's car stuck in the body of another car. So
Seeing the countdown there, that's the 45-minute rule clock. Everyone has to pit before that comes down to 0. Here comes the leader, Brian.
Fogarty on the marks. A little bit of grass in the radiator of this car as well. Not enough to cause overheating. They will do tires, fuel, and a driver change. And while I understand the strategy of getting a driver change done now and not taking the time later, that means that Alex Gurney is going to be in the car for a very long time, or they'll have to take the time to do another one later. Chris.
Well, the 10 SunTrust car also in pit lane. Max Angelelli getting behind the wheel. Memo Rojas bringing the Telmex machine to the pit here, too. Also, just Scott Pruitt not getting behind the Telmex car, so Memo Rojas staying behind the wheel. Kind of a questionable call here, maybe. Pruitt probably worried about the heat a little bit, but just a quick stop by Rojas, just taking fuel.
And released. And you'll see there that the 58 Red Bull Brumos car
looked like he leapfrogged the leader there.
Yeah, very nicely done.
So there's some key strategy going on. The heat is definitely playing a factor in how these calls are being made and when they're putting the guys in. Valiente going in. He's been extremely fast in recent events, so this should be a show here this afternoon.
But if these guys are going to drive the rest of the day, it's going to be awfully tough. I mean, you have 99 laps more to go if it goes on laps.
As you guys can see, Michael Valiente getting behind the wheel. We're getting ready to do an interview with him before it went caution to talk about what happened at Iowa last week and the contact between he and Colin Brown. Some of that bad blood did spill over to practice here Thursday. Colin Brown went out on the track and did turn around Michael Valiente. Now, the teams talked. They said everything is okay now. They've gotten it out of their system, but we're just going to have to see with the heat of the day here. Those two might be going back at it.
Yeah, the boys misbehaved a little on Thursday. This is the reason why we're under yellow as a result after this occurred. This is Tracy Crone colliding with Chris Sakaris, and Hurley Haywood was involved in that as well. And obviously there were a number of items of debris on the track. This is on board with Sakaris.
Look up ahead here. There's his spin. And that's Hurley who just ran into him, and that's Tracy Crone who just ran into him.
I don't think he got hit, though. I don't think he got tagged by Hurley.
I don't think he got hit either. I didn't hear anything to indicate that.
Just lost under braking there, maybe a little bit too much rear brake bias, which in effect is like yanking on the e-brake if you're driving a rental car, Dorsey, which you know all about.
Brian?
John Fogarty just climbed out of the 99. And, John, we were just talking about the heat and how brutal it is today. To put Alex in now, can you guys leave him in to the end? I mean, you know how hot it is.
Yeah, I'm kind of tall right now, huh? Alex should have no problem. It seems like I was hardly in there at all. I guess they don't want me to drive. No, just kidding. But we've worked a lot on keeping the interior of our car comfortable, and performance drink is going to help us out. So it's going to be tough on Alex. We knew this was a potential situation, so we prepared as best we could.
That's going to be a long, hard road for Alex Gurney. Chris?
Well, the SunTrust boys also lost a lot of track position by doing their driver change. Mamo, you had a little bit of contact in that opening lap, but I think the big question is, with the amount of time that Max is going to be behind the wheel, can he make it?
Well, it's ultimately up to him. You know, he's driven this car a lot. He knows what he can do, and I have complete confidence in him. It was great to pull a gap on the 01 car and get the distance needed so we could get that driver change done. Now we're good for the rest till the end. If it was closer, it would have been a problem. And also, happy birthday, Calvin, 50.
Oh, lots of love, Calvin. Lots of love down here for you.
I knew I was going to get stitched up today.
Yes, folks, it is our Calvin Fisher's birthday, and from all of us, mate, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
The big 5-0. You're watching Sports Cars Live here on Speed at a place where Mr. George Barber calls it the Augusta of racetracks. Dorsey tells us more in this week's Ruby Tuesday Recipe for Success.
A lot of improvements have been made here to Barber Motorsports Park since last year, and most of them have to do with safety, primarily in the target zone. Well, what is a target zone? Well, it's an area where race cars tend to crash, usually off a big straightaway in a braking zone where cars tend to pass one another. In all these target zones, you'll always find just a little bit of runoff area, followed by a gravel trap. Now, these gravel traps are designed to slow the car down or stop it completely before you make impact with the barrier. Now, the barrier here has been moved back 60 feet to give you that much more room before you hit it. It's also been lined in styrofoam to help dissipate energy if you get that far. Now, let me tell you one thing. If you're a race car driver and you get down to this point and you have no brakes or you've just lost suspension, that gravel trap is your best friend. On the other hand, if you're just racing along, minding your own business, and one of your buddies shoves you off the road, you're not going to be too happy. You're going to be stuck in the gravel trap and have to be towed out. Unless you're fortunate enough to stay on the throttle and drive through, then you have a different problem altogether. Where do you go with that half a ton of gravel you just picked up? In any event, the recipe for success is stay out of the gravel trap.
Simple as that, really, isn't it?
That's a fact. You know, you go out in one of those gravel traps, you're going to stay there for quite a long time till they get it sorted out. Yesterday, of course, in the GT race, we didn't see much of that, did we? And we only had one incident where a car had an impact. But this is a pretty safe racetrack, and they've added a lot of different areas of protection that weren't here last year.
Lee, you've spent a lot of time in those, your golf game.
Indeed. Yeah, let's put a period on that. It's too hurtful to talk about. So the revised order is Christian Fittipaldi, Nick Johnson, Darren Law, Hurley Haywood in the 59 Brumos Porsche, the only car not yet to pit in this mandatory period, the first 45 minutes, and then Alex Gurney is in the top 5. So promising stop there for the 75 and the 58. And speaking of the 75 Krone car, Brian's there.
Sitting here with Jeff Hazel, who calls the shots on the 75. Jeff, you guys elected not to do the driver change now. Is it just too early in this heat to put a driver in and keep him there to the end?
Well, we have to take that into consideration. Whether it is or not, we'll judge by the Games Code car, whether Gurney can run 2 hours in the seat. Let's see. While we're thinking about heat and its effect on people, I hope Calvin's getting on okay. I know he's 50 today, so I hope he's bearing up too.
All right, guys, we'll see what happens. Good luck, Cal.
I need to clarify one thing. I'm 46, and I now think we have perfect symmetry in the booth because Dorsey is 64 and Lee is 4'6". So I think we got a hand.
And while we're under yellow, we're going to squeeze in a quick commercial break. So when we come back, we can go racing. Stay with us.
So you can't pull out before start-finish line.
It appears one more lap until we go racing. Here at Barber Motorsports Park, you're watching the Porsche 250 round 10 of the Rolex Sports Car Series, a Daytona prototype only race, and this is the final time that the classes will be split. There's only 2 rounds left in the GT Series. Here we go, final couple of corners. The safety car, the pace car, has returned to pit lane, and Christian Fittipaldi for Chiva Racing is the race leader. We'll see a clear track ahead, and he has Nick Johnson from Krone Racing chasing him hard.
Christian Fittipaldi loving the talk of that Pontiac, Dorsey.
I'm not going there. Watch this down into turn 1, though. Everybody's through. Heard one of the drivers getting instruction on the restart, not to pop out of line before past start-finish line, not to pull a penalty.
A few strategy calls were made within those pit stops. Nick Johnson currently running second, took fuel, but no tires. However, Alex Gurney in that red machine right ahead of the Ruby Tuesday car right there took tires along with that Gurney change. Fogarty getting out, of course.
2 positions. Hurley Haywood just lost there in the 1 corner. Patrick Long and Alex Gurney blasting up the inside. It's a Pontiac, and then a Porsche. Chiva Racing, Krone Racing, and Brumos.
Now, even though Christian Fittipaldi has got to the front of the pack through strategy, he has a fast race car. Speaking with him, he said this car is really strong around this racetrack. We just made a big mistake. We gambled a little too far and changed the balance on the race car in qualifying, and that's why they were so far down the grid. So expect him to stay at the point here for a little bit.
Chris?
Well, what Calvin was just saying about the improvements they've made to the chassis, Christian Fittipaldi also saying the biggest thing that he feels is the fuel economy with that Pontiac. So with that early stop, they stopped here on lap 1, put more fuel in the car, and now this caution, everything seems to really be playing in their hands today.
Ian Watt, who is the chief engineer at Chiva Racing, is one of the best engineers in the paddock. He said the big challenge with it has been, well, first of all, you've got to make it fit, you've got to make it work. He says, but there's a big weight difference, and we've had to work with it. We haven't tested with it. He said every session we're out on the track is a test in itself. And he said, but we're slowly getting there. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, in the past few rounds, they switched from Porsche power plant to a Pontiac.
Well, it changes everything. It changes the roll center at the back, the center of gravity of the whole car. You know, it's just not an easy just drop one in and go type of situation. There's a lot to be dealt with. And then you have to learn what the car likes after you've made all those changes, what kind of spring rates you have to run, etc. It's not just an easy fix situation. And it happens so late in the year.
A report from Race Control, Max Angelelli in the 10 SunTrust car on the radio complaining that the 61 AIM Autosport Lexus, Mark Wilkins, there's some fluid coming from the back of that car. We ride with Angelelli now.
Well, we'll pick it up if it happens, but I'll tell you, One of the things about this racetrack is it's very, very hard on overheating engines because there is no straightaway here. There's 2 short straightaways, but there's no place that you can go where you can get a good long area of wide open throttle. It's too busy around here.
Looks like Angelelli has already cleared Wilkins. He's now right behind Shane Lewis. That's the picture we're looking at. There you see the gold and black 61 machine car.
And the all clear given to the exchange traded gold 61. Reports from corner workers, they're saying it's dry, there's no fluid. Brian, tell me more.
Checked with the team, they said absolutely no problems here. As a matter of fact, Wilkins has radioed in and said, guys, I'm conserving rear tires right now. I'm watching the guys in front of me. They are burning those cars down. And as you've alluded to, with as many corners on this racetrack, guys, easy to tear up the rear tires of this car, overheat them, and lose the handling. Chris?
Brian, just checked back in with the Citgo crew, and they had problems last weekend at Iowa when they had contact. They threw an oil belt this weekend. Now with that contact, it seems that they've got electrical miss on the car. They've been in and out trying to figure out what the problem is, but right at this point in time, they're just going to have to drive through it.
Patrick Carpentier in the 11. Very exciting time coming up for Carpentier as well. He's competing in the Busch race at the upcoming Montreal round of our series, but then of course the NASCAR Busch series. And I think we've got something like 8 Grand American Rolex Sports Car Series competitors in that race up there, in the Busch race.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I suggested to Patrick this morning maybe all the Bushes throw a few grand in the pot and winner takes all from the Grand Am ranks. So it'll be a very interesting weekend. Huge crowd, almost a sellout we understand, and new grandstands are being built. When Patrick Carpentier was announced as being a driver there, Lee, the crowd just swelled enormously.
They sold a truckload of tickets. Here are the drivers that are competing up there. Race leaders in trouble. What has happened to Christian Fittipaldi?
It looks like he's actually coming back up to speed. I don't know what's happened, but
there's been a report that he did a 360 coming onto the front straight.
Well, if that's the case, it should happen, right? Oh, he gets a big wiggle right there, Calvin. Misses it on the first catch and around. Oh, good job by the crew.
Yeah, lucky everyone missed him there, Doris. That was close.
That just got loose on that edge of that corner. He was lucky not to be collected up.
And that's the balance he said he had in the car yesterday. They had a push in practice. They made a big change. He and Ian Watt, the engineer, decided to really go for it for qualifying. The car went loose on them. And if he's got a loose race car now, Dorsey, we're believing that this racetrack is going to go more in that direction as the laps go down.
Well, the race yesterday, this turned into a skating rink. I mean, everybody in the entire race dropped off 2.5 seconds a lap at least, and everyone was complaining we can't stay on this race surface. I think the same thing will happen. It's hotter today than it was yesterday, and once these guys start putting a lot of rubber bits out there, it's going to be very slippery.
Check this out, Darren Law and Alex Gurney going at it. Porsches well represented here. We've got 3 Porsches in the top 6 placings, and Darren Law is the highest of those in second in the Red Bull machine right now.
We believe Darren did not take tires. Gurney has fresh rubber, so you'd have to think that he'll be stronger at this stage of the event.
Nick Johnson is our new race leader, and here he is, a healthy margin, 1.5 seconds in front of this scrap going on here. And Patrick Long with a front row seat to this battle. He sits 4th in the Ruby Tuesday Crawford Porsche.
Yesterday, the cars that were set up to be very tight at the beginning of the run, the cars that had a lot of understeer push in them, came neutral toward the end of long green flag runs and were much quicker than the cars that were neutral when they started out. We'll have to watch if we can get long green flag runs, see what happens to these cars.
Darren Law told Calvin and I earlier that he was very grateful for the opportunity to run with Doncaster Racing yesterday in the GT race because it was hot, it was late afternoon, the track was incredibly slick. He felt he learnt and took a lot away from that race to help him today, and he's running second. So far, so good.
Pat Long running well. Darren Law on the last lap ran a 124.6. The 2 guys behind him, 0.3 faster.
Well, earlier in the race, things got a little scrappy, a little ugly, and one man right in the middle of it is with Brian Till.
Michael Shank Racing has always done well here at Barber. John, you were out there involved in that first little skirmish. Give us your point of view.
Well, I got down to the hairpin, and there was already some collisions going on. Tracy Krohn's car was involved. His front end was damaged, and his tire was smoking. I was behind him, trying to get around him a couple of times. He still wouldn't let me by. I got down here at the kink, and he got a terrible shot out. So I got alongside him. I thought he was going to let me by. He's coming back in the pit. He just runs to the side of me, and I go off. But I got to first thank Playboy, Michael Shank. Thank you very much.
Frustration on the part of John Pugh. We talked about this Michael Shank racing team doing well, but remember back to Mid-Ohio when Oswaldo Negre and Ian James, teammates, kind of got into it in the closing stages of the race? Well, they're both back in the car. Negre just got past Ian James. We understand the Englishman not particularly pleased with his teammate right now in the 60 car, guys.
Well, he's another birthday boy. Ian and I share the same day to celebrate, and he will be disappointed. They lost a lot of track time by losing an engine the other day. In fact, they believe it was a stone got up underneath the belt, jumped a couple of teeth, and immediately did some damage to that Lexus. They have such a great track record, the Lexus motor, in terms of its durability, so a strange occurrence there for Mike Shank and the boys.
Everybody in England born on July 22nd, are they?
I think so.
Inside move, Gurney's got second. That was a very savvy pass.
He tried that one lap ago, actually. He tried it, looked at the same exact place to try to put to the inside. He saw that that was open and took it away.
Pat Long having a look too. He's one of the most aggressive drivers in the series, and he thought there was an opening there to make a move on Darren Law.
Now let's see if Alex Gurney can run down our leader, Nick Janssen. He's not that far ahead, but now that he's got the 99 up front, clean air on the nose will help him with the downforce.
Got two cars in exactly the same configuration. Pontiac Riley's 1 and 2, and there's a 3-second buffer first to second. So can Gurney start posting some quick times? Now he's got a clear track, a clear view at Nick Janssen. We're in a break zone right now. We need to leave Barber for just a moment, but we'll be back. So much more to come. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And powered by Pontiac and the 260 horsepower Solstice GXP. And so far so good for the Pontiac boys. They're running 1-2, and then we've got two Porsches running 3 and 4. And the lead Porsche, driven by Darren Law, the man who will take over, is without Chris Neville.
David, Darren had a chance to run that GT race yesterday. What was he able to learn?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hi to Scott's family back at home. But, yeah, he ran late in the afternoon, and we haven't had that many chances to run in the afternoon. And basically, he said the car gets really, really loose. The track gets very greasy, and towards the end of the stint, you know, the times just really fall off because the driver fatigue in there is it plays a big factor. And even he in the GT car felt a lot of fatigue just in the 45 minutes he was in the car. So there's a lot of things going on out there, and at the end of the stint, these guys are pretty tired. And Calvin, just remember, happy birthday, and these are your golden years.
I'm going to get those guys.
Well, look at this. Long starting to apply the pressure now.
I think what you're going to see is Darren Law, by not taking tires, that worked to his advantage for those first few laps, but the racetrack is starting to really get shiny and slippery, and I think that his tire choice, not taking tires, is going to bite him here shortly.
Outside the top 10, this is the fight for 11th. You ride with the only BMW-powered car in the field. This is Matt Al-Hadif for Siegel Sport and the Luggage Express car, and he's being hounded by Oswaldo Negri. Ian James and Michael Valiente is in the second Ganassi car. The Mission Residential Lexus Riley at the back of this pack.
Big engine problems for the 05 squad this weekend. They're on their third BMW engine. They had a fuel pump issue with the first one, which ran the motor lean, burned a piston. Then they put a second motor in. Piece of debris, maybe part of the motor even, from the top end got dropped down in there. Dorsey damaged that one. So they're on their third motor this weekend. They had to ship one in from California. Big move there by Oz.
You open the door an inch to Oswaldo Negri Jr. and he will push it open.
Steve Dinan, who builds the engines on these cars, on that car, you know, they don't have that many of those around. It's not like you just go get one out of the back. So 3 of them in a weekend is, I'm sure, completed the supply.
That was Ian James whipping by on the inside of Al-Hadif in turn 1. And Matt has had a bit of a tough time of it this weekend. Has not been the best weekend, as Calvin mentioned, for the 05.
Well, I think the key to that is the lack of track time. When you start mechanical gremlins, Dorsey, it just loses a session. And for a driver such as Matt Al-Hadif, who's still on a steep learning curve, It really hurts you.
There was a pass for position. That was riding on board Max Angelelli. Just got the position away from Hurley Haywood. That is for 6th place.
Hurley is yet to stop, and we've had 43 minutes go by in this race. So Haywood must stop. This is a replay from a few laps ago. This is Angelelli on Rojas, turn 5, inside move. Very popular position, and remember, this is 1st and 2nd in the championship. The 10 needs to finish ahead of the 0-1 here today.
Ooh, that was close there.
It's as close as it gets. But Max Angelelli will be pushing hard, and when you're pushing hard, Dorsey, that takes it out of you. He's got a long way to go to see this checkered flag this afternoon if he's going to stay in this car and not turn it back to Gidley.
And we heard early on, as you see right now, Hurley Haywood coming in for that 45-minute stop. We heard that his cool suit failed early on, but he got it working again. If it goes out, he's in deep trouble.
The Brumos camp have been told they need to clean that car up. You can see a loose piece of bodywork on the rear left there. They need to just clean it up a little bit. Mark Raffoff, the Director of Competition, and his staff keeping a watchful eye on things. JC France climbs aboard the 59, so a driver change there as well. It's Johnson with less than a second lead. So Alex Gurney has taken 2.2 seconds out of this man here. Former Scandinavian touring car and Formula 3 champion. This is a good scrap at the front. More from the pits. Here's Chris.
Well, the Sitco car has been pushed behind the wall, Patrick. The team started out so strong this year, but it's really been a string of bad luck lately.
Yeah, the last 4 races out of 5, I didn't even start. Did a few laps at least today, but no, we spun the car. And for some reason, when the car goes backward, it seems like sometimes it damages the engine, and that's what it seems like it happened today. We got bumped from behind a couple of times. Just bad luck, you know. And we're struggling with the setup also a little bit, but we'll see. You know, in Montreal, we should have more people working on the car, and it should be a bit better.
That's only 2 weeks away. How important is that weekend going to be for you?
It's really important. I got 2 races, one in the prototypes and the other one in the bush, and I want to do well in that series in the prototypes. You know, that's where I want to race for the next 4 or 5 years. So hopefully Steve Chalice should be there, and with all these guys, a couple more guys, we get it back together and go have fun with these guys again.
Well, hopefully you see we back up at the front.
Well, what will happen sometimes is if you spin the car around 180, you don't get the clutch in. What will happen is if the tires start going in reverse direction, and it will stop the motor from running in its clockwise direction, and all of a sudden snap it into going the opposite way around. It will actually start up and run in reverse direction. And what that'll do sometimes is snap either rods or to break the oiling system. There's a lot of things that are not supposed to be running in the wrong direction.
Because at Iowa, when Chris Sekeras had that quick spin there's immediately smoke coming out of the back of the car, Dorsey, so there's something going on with one of the pumps in some description. But right now, these are the only 2 boys down in the 123 range, but Gurney is picking him off by about 3 to 4 tenths a lap.
And as we watch and enjoy this battle for the lead, Nick Johnson, Alex Gurney. Brian, tell us more about the temperature, because it's such a talking point today.
Guys, it's very hot down here. Obviously, we can tell that. We've talked about it already, but you guys are talking about cars moving around, and here's the reason. I'm down at AIM Autosport, and I've borrowed their infrared thermometer, 147 degrees on the track temperature. So that's up about 10 degrees from when we started today, about 95 degrees ambient air temperature. That is going to make it brutal on these guys in the cars. You're seeing the cars slide around right now. That high track temperature is exactly the reason why.
And where Brian's standing, there's no cars been running around making it even hotter than that, so it's 147 there. Imagine what it's online out there.
Here's the running order. It's Johnson, Gurney, we know that. Then Darren Law, Patrick Long. That battle still rages for 3rd. Fittipaldi has steadied in 5th. Then Angelelli is 6th. Rojas, Lewis, Mark Wilkins, and then Oswaldo Negri in the top 10. That's how it sits here at Barber Motorsports Park in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Looking a little further down today's running order, tonight at 9 Eastern. As always on Sundays, it's Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. Bob Varsha, Tom Jensen will be on there as special guests. And knowing how much Dave loves motorcycles, there'll be a very much an in-depth analysis of today's MotoGP from Laguna Seca. Welcome back, folks. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till and Chris Neville working with you here from Birmingham, Alabama. But we're not working anywhere near as hard as these guys in these cars. Race leader Nick Johnson for Krone Racing. Does it look like a bit more of a gap? Well, there's a pretty good reason. Alex Gurney had a nervous moment while we're away. but quick hands and a lot of skill saved it.
Take a watch of the 99 here as we talk about how slippery it's getting. Well, that's about a full hand of opposite lock, isn't it?
Oh, he had a nervous moment. I bet Bob Sterling's had a nervous breakdown when he saw that one.
Brian?
I'm sure they did, because I just checked in with the team and I said, are you content to run where you're running right now? And Kyle Brandon said, absolutely. The 75 has not done their driver change, which means when we come back in, their stop is going to be longer than ours, so we're content to pass them in the pits. They weren't expecting a moment like that on track from Alex Gurney. Chris?
Brian, when you look at the stats the 10 car has put up here the past 3 years, it's been 1 win and 2 second places, so that car really built for this place. However, it's not going to be easy for Max Angelelli today. Already, he had problems with his cool suit. He did get it fixed. He had disconnected it, connected it back in, so now it is working. But now the team is saying they are having problems with communication. They can hear Max, but he cannot hear them, so the team is going to have to communicate with the signboard across pit lane.
Speaking of the 10, let's climb aboard the SunTrust car. Wayne Taylor Racing, Max Angelelli, and today Mamo Gidley. And if you've got the remote control handy, grab it, turn it up, and take a ride for a lap around Barber.
Angelelli is the type of driver who likes a lot of information about what's going on within the race. For him not being able to hear his crew, at some point he's going to call on the radio and say, how far back to the other car? Then is when he's going to realize that he's lost his communication with the pits. It gets very frustrating if you're that type of driver to be out there by yourself without the information that you like to hear.
Max also is a driver who likes a lot of cooling, so any issues with that cool suit is going to be a problem for him. I remember a few seasons ago he really struggled in the heat when they had a similar issue at Homestead. So it's not that he's not fit, it's just your physical makeup. Some drivers tend to sweat more than others, and when you get in these conditions such we're having here this weekend with the humidity, it's a tough ride for these boys.
Third place still belongs to Darren Law in the Brumos Porsche, the Riley chassis car. Here's the Ruby Tuesday Porsche, Pat Long. Great qualifying, good solid run, and remains in fourth.
Well, I'm impressed with Darren Law from the standpoint that he did not take tires, and the car hasn't fallen off like I thought it was going to. I really thought that he would really fall prey after a few green flag laps, but it hasn't been that way.
Someone who is about to be thrown into the heat zone is with Brian Till.
Jörg Bergmeister had a busy weekend. You won the ALMS race in the GT2 class yesterday, Jörg. How difficult is it for you, though, to do the traveling back and forth and adapt from a rear-engine 911 back to the Daytona prototype?
It's pretty difficult. I mean, I just did the first practice session here on Thursday, then drove the RSR the whole weekend and did 2 recon laps now. But the whole team did a great job setting the car up. Great effort in qualifying with P2, and we're running pretty consistent lap times. Just a little too much oversteer, what Patrick is complaining about right now, but we're probably going to adjust that when I get in the car.
Trying to make a tire pressure adjustment, more than likely, guys, and see if they can settle down the rear end of the 23.
And they always seem to perform when they have to. Do you remember when the negotiation for the sponsorship was on the line? They came out and did well. Well, they got 2 special guests here, Mark Young and Andy Scoggins of Ruby Tuesday Corporate. Back at the front, Nick Johnson continues to lead this race He has one Rolex Sports Car Series Daytona prototype victory in his pocket. He and Tracy Crone won at a very wet Watkins Glen a couple of years ago. Wouldn't it be a remarkable performance if he and Colin Brown could bring up the 75's first win of 07? Well, another Pontiac yesterday, the Banner Engineering Pontiac, also won for the first time in 2007. Could it be a trend this weekend? The 99 Gainsco car will definitely be trying to stop it.
Well, you know, when they do a switch in your team like what they have just done with the two drivers switching cars, and you don't know that it's coming, it gets everybody's attention, doesn't it, Calvin? I mean, all the way through the mechanics, and everybody's, you know, just perks up and goes, oh.
Yeah, I think the whole team seems to have come alive here. They needed something to just really spark them into life. They have so much potential. They've had a couple of races which they should have won this year, consistently up in the top 5, but they want to see the top step of the podium. Remember, this is the team that won the championship last year and had 3 victories along the way.
Third place, Darren Law in the Red Bull Brumos Porsche. Patrick Long continues to shadow him, and then Fittipaldi is still in the top 5.
Well, I'm still impressed with the 58. They must have a really good balance on the car because it's running the longest on tires. And yesterday we saw these cars fall off so badly, so quickly.
We're starting to hear a lot more protest from the tires out there, aren't we?
Oh, you hear the tires squealing, and that's usually an understeer squeal that you hear where the car's not wanting to turn at all.
One change that the 58 team did this year was that Darren Law switched to left foot braking. We've talked about the compatibility of different driver pairings, and since Darren made the move to left foot braking, the same as David Donahue, they've really made a lot more progress with that Riley chassis.
You know, with all the upgrades and all the differences with sequential shift and all that, your poor 2 little feet have less to do than they used to. You might as well, you know, might as well just go left foot brake and forget about the whole rest of it. They don't ever use a clutch anymore.
Christian Fittipaldi still looking strong here. Talking about that pace of the new combination. Only their 3rd race with this Pontiac motor in the Fab Car chassis. And who would have thought a year ago, Dorsey, that this Fab Car chassis would be back amongst the leaders?
Well, amen there. I mean, it struggled so badly. And until they made this change, and of course this is what's going to happen next year. We're going to see a lot of new bodywork changes. This is the first car that's really had that new tucked in type body, and look how it picked it up.
I think I need one of those.
Yeah, I definitely need one of those. We want him going to lead.
Yes, please, times 2.
Hey, you got to have a comeback for that one.
I can't, I'm too nice. Even though the fact Dorsey could be my father. Points as of now. Let's talk business, and it hasn't really changed that much, has it? Pruitt comes in as with a 15-point lead. It would be 14, but the important thing there is that Fogarty and Gurney would go up to join Angelelli in a tie for 2nd. So with Rojas maintaining his position in 7, Scott Pruitt hasn't got in the 01 Telmex Lexus just yet. That's to come. Points is the name of the game. Here's Rojas. He said, boy, was last week sweet. He said, they say it's so hard to get that first one, your first victory I'm talking about. He got it and feels a whole lot better. It's his first time racing here at Barber Motorsports Park, incidentally.
This is a tough learning curve here, Dorsey. It's a very tricky racetrack, very narrow, a lot of blind elevation changes, so that's where it's really hard for a driver to learn the circuit with limited track time.
Chris?
Lee Rojas really coming off that perfect weekend, and as we saw back on Friday, he had problems in that one gravel trap, but yesterday they thought they had a good setup on the Telmex car. It was a little bit tight in the corners, but today the track is just so different. They're not quite sure if it's the heat or because of the GT race yesterday, but the track is incredibly loose, and Memo Rojas is having a very difficult time trying to drive that car. Now, they also clipped a little bit of the rear spoiler on the right rear with contact early in the race. They think that might be part of the problem, and they're going to try and repair that under the next stop. So we're going to have to see, can they repair it, and will the car be better when Scott Pruitt gets behind the wheel?
Well, we know for a fact that Memo does not like a loose race car. That was why he struggled so much at Daytona, where the car was loose on entry. Pruitt jumped behind the wheel, and he said, I just had to drive the thing the way I was handling. So that's the experience factor. I mean, remember, Memo Rojas has to protect Scott Pruitt's championship. He can't throw it all away. So if the car's balance is not good, Dorsey, he needs to back it off a step.
Yeah, you got to drive to the comfort level of what you feel you're not going to get in trouble driving at. You know, if you go beyond that, if you start pushing that envelope, your instincts are always right. I mean, if you think this is as far as I can go without getting in trouble, and you go a little step further, you will get in trouble.
Shane Lewis doing a nice job for Southern Motorsports. He's still in the top 10 in 8th. And that's been 2 very promising weekends for that car, that squad. They're on a bit of a high at the moment. Oz Negri, he's just 1 position back in 9th. We ride with him now. And then in 10, it's Mark Wilkins for AIM Autosport. Valiente is trying hard to play catch-up, but he is back in 12. Tell us more, Brian.
He's checked in with Michael Shank on both the 60 running 9th right now and the number 6 car with Ian James behind the wheel running 11th. Both of those cars really kind of just in cruise mode right now. Mike said we're trying to conserve fuel, tires, and drivers right now, waiting until that last pit stop to really go for it. Seems like what a lot of the teams are doing. I also checked in with Ian Willis from AIM Motorsports on the 61 car with Mark Wilkins behind the wheel right now, and he said, hey, he's screaming about tires. Dorsey, you said the drivers were screaming about it, or the tires were screaming? Well, the drivers are screaming as well. The rear tires really going on that 61. Ian Willis said, we tried to set the car up to be a little bit pushy, knowing that the track would go loose, but we just missed, and it is very loose right now, so hopefully he can hang on for a while. He said, experience is what counts on a day like this. We just don't have the experience yet.
Well, this is the type of racetrack that you don't want to get into the position to have to try to make up speed, because in trying to make up speed, you drive the car yet harder and harder, and the car just goes away faster and faster. The best approach to a track like this is to do a long run of a consistent speed where you don't do the damage to the tires, don't do the damage to the car.
I think we talked about it early. Darren Law got that experience yesterday with the GT run. He said the track went loose, and consequently they put a good balance into the 58 machine, and we're hearing a lot of teams now complaining about drivers hanging on with the car loose. I spoke to Ian James this morning, who's in the thick of the action here today as well, currently running in 11th in that battle we were just looking at. Meanwhile, the leader's getting pretty close, and he just said physically demanding, this is the worst. It's worse than Mid-Ohio. He said you're using the gearbox a lot more through here, using all of the gears at this racetrack with this heat and humidity, and as busy as it is, this is one tough racetrack if the car's loose.
The 75 car is in such a strong position at the moment, and the teenager about to take the wheel is with Brian.
Colin Brown sitting with his helmet on, waiting in case there's another full course caution. Colin, changes within the driver lineup this week and seems to be working right now. Is that really a style issue? I know both you and Nick are left foot breakers.
Well, you know, so far it's going really well. Nick's out there doing a great job, and you know, we got a good car here. We tested here a couple weeks ago, and you know, we've just been doing our homework, trying to catch the 99 car, and I think we can do it this weekend. Looks like they're a little bit quicker than us right now, but hopefully put the next set of tires on and keep it at the front, and you know, hopefully it'll be a good race for us.
Well, Colin Brown waiting to get in that car, and he's trying to stay cool. We talk about cool suits. Well, look at this, guys. He's wearing one right now, and it's plugged into a portable unit. Sitting here behind the pit box. Colin sitting on the pit box, waiting to get in the car. Staying cool, guys.
I think that's a smart thing to do, too, because if you plug a cool suit into a warm body, when you get in the car and you first plug it in, well, it's got to get rid of all that warmth in the suit and so forth. When he gets in, that'll have already been done. It'll take less of the ice away from the ice chest. And, boy, when they don't work, you're in deep trouble.
Completely different line by the two leaders there, Dorsey, going into 14. You notice that Nick really swings out wide, whereas Alex Gurney takes a much narrower entry. Looks like he's going to make a pass there, but he's just using a different entry point. But got to be impressed with Nick Johnson right now, the performance he's putting on.
He is a hard worker, a hard driver, a fast driver, and it's nice to see him have his moment in the sun. Tonight on Speed, grassroots racing will never be the same. 1 hour, 2 new shows. Should Speed pick up these pilots or take them off the air? That's the question. It's called Launch Hour, tonight at 10 p.m. right here on Speed. We're back, and we are back under caution. Brian.
Leaders on the pit road right now. The 99 Gainesco car in. Did not do a driver change. Tires and fuel only. They are out. 75. Colin Brown getting in. It's going to be a longer stop, and they'll get back on track, Chris.
Darren Law also bringing the 58 Red Bull machine to pit lane. David Donahue getting behind the wheel. You can see the car has got some bumps and bruises on it, missing a couple of the dive planes up front. So this car probably getting a little bit of that aero taken off the front that they probably want here today. Now they're taking time getting David in the car, making sure that they get all those cool suit connectors in place. David Donahue down and away. Brian?
23 in as well. Patrick Long out. York Bergmeister going in. Now this is a lengthy driver change. Bergmeister considerably taller. The seat insert is out. Bergmeister in. 23 gone.
Well, the key was most of those guys didn't need a full fuel load other than Christian Fittipaldi's car, because they'd only run 34 laps. So it's probably about 20 seconds of fuel as opposed to 30 plus.
This is the reason why we're under our second full course caution, a gearbox problem for Michael Valiante's Lexus Riley.
That's a shame, too, because that was a car we thought could really move forward. We wondered why it hadn't been going as quickly as we thought, and there's the reason, gearbox.
This is the sister car. It has just pitted. Chris, tell us more.
Well, Pruitt also got behind the Telemex machine. They did fuel, tires, and they also tried to repair that right rear corner. They put some duct tape on it trying to hold that spoiler in place. We're just going to have to see, can it hold up in this race?
Yes. Good point. Drama here or it's just cooling. That's is JC France still behind the wheel? Yes, he is. Just trying to stay cool, I guess. Get some fresh air in.
Yep, that's what he's doing, all right. He's opened that door up and give me some fresh air. It's hot in here. These cars about 155 or 60 degrees inside the car closed up. That's plenty warm. You can cook a turkey at that temperature.
We always like to squeeze in as many breaks as we can while we're under caution so we can show you more green flag racing. That's what we're about to do right now. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And by Lexus and their pursuit of perfection. There's always something interesting to look at here at Barber Motorsports Park. I'll tell you about these large insects and spiders in just a moment, but sometimes when a driver is buried deep in the pack, you don't always get to see how well they are driving. But when they're up front, when they're leading, you can see what a stellar job they have done, and that is exactly the case with Nick Johnson of Krone Racing. He's with Brian.
And Nick Johnson brought the car in the lead. I lost a little bit on the pit stop there, but we expected that with a driver change, Nick. But conditions on the racetrack right now, what are the track conditions like, and what are the cockpit conditions like, bud?
The cockpit conditions are pretty good. You know, we have a cooling suit and fluids with us and a helmet, blower, so that's not a big deal. The track's still getting very, very hot, and there's also a lot of debris out there, so it's still getting pretty slick out there. But, the Krone car is running fantastic, and, I have a lot of faith in Colin, so hopefully, he can get by the 9.9 car here in, the last stint there.
Well, Nick looking very fresh, but I'm not sure it's that way on your end of pit road, Chris.
No, Darren Law was having problems with his cool suit out there, and Darren, pretty bad conditions, huh?
It's very, very tough. I know a lot of guys. We train all day, every week, and there's nothing you can do to fight the heat. I think it would have been okay with the cool suit working, but I'd say the last 5 laps I started not feeling good, and I had to back off, and I could see Pat there, but I didn't want to let him by. It was I need to thank the Brumos guys. The car was great and very consistent.
Darren, I know you learned a lot in the GT race yesterday, but because you ran that, do you think that hurt your stamina at all today?
It's possible. I had a problem yesterday as well with the cool suit, so I spent a lot of time dehydrating and sitting in the cool last night, but it really takes its toll, man. So, yeah.
Brian?
Well, we're talking about driver fatigue. John Fogarty, you were out of the car very early on, and I asked you if Alex will be good to go. Looking at the guys now and the track conditions, is that still going to be the case, or are you worried about him a little bit?
I'm not too worried about Alex. He's a tough guy. He's been faced with these situations in the past. And the Gainesville Auto Insurance crew has done a great job ensuring that all of our systems are reliable. So our cool system, our helmet blower, and everything's good inside the car. He hasn't said anything, and this yellow's helping out as well. So I think he'll be good to the end.
Would he tell you if he was tired?
I don't think he would.
He wants to go all the way to the checkered, guys.
Well, that's going to be a huge effort. And Angelelli's in the same boat as well. We will wait and see. Wait and see. There's been a couple of recent examples about this as we get ready to go green. The GT race last week at Iowa was one great example about that. So Gurney is the new race leader, and Colin Brown right on him with Angelelli there as well, and Donohue's behind the 58. The green flag flies here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Watch Colin Brown. He's going to have an idea here.
Colin Brown had a great restart there. Gurney immediately realized he needed to defend that inside line because Colin Brown is hungry. He won here last year with Jörg Bergmeister. He'd love to put another one in the win column today.
That was, in fact, the last time they did win, too, there, Calvin. And look at those 2 cars stretch on the 10 car of Angelelli.
This has been a Pontiac-dominated track. First 3 wins were Pontiac-powered cars. A Ford won last year at Krone Racing. On board with Negri.
And the driver change there in the 39 machine is now Harrison Bricks behind the wheel.
Inside. Whoa, Negri didn't mess about there.
Did he make it on the corner? I barely got stopped for that corner, Calvin. Heard the tire lock up from inside the car.
Total commitment, as we expect, from Osvaldo Negri, taking the position.
They serve as very valuable workers for Lexus in their pursuit of trying to win this Manufacturers' Championship, battling fiercely with Pontiac.
Jörg Bergmeister right now trying to get into the rhythm. He hasn't driven this race car in anger since Thursday morning. So right now, Scott Pruitt putting the heat on. But I think Bergmeister will get to grips with this. He'll find the rhythm, Dorsey, and then settle down.
Of course, he won a race yesterday at Mid-Ohio. You were there, Cal. And he could be a bit fatigued from that, too, but I don't really think so. I mean, races back-to-back like that, unless you had a problem like what Darren Law did, where you had a cool suit failure 2 days in a row, well, that'll zap you pretty bad. But
Pruitt's looking racy here. Look at the blue and white car, the 01 Telmex Lexus. He is coming, and he's coming on strong. He's got another Lexus Riley right with him. That's Oswaldo Negri. And they have got some momentum down into turn 5. Bergmeister is in the hot seat, no doubt about that. Pruitt wants points, and he wants them now.
I'll tell you one thing I notice about Scott Pruitt. When he comes under pressure, he doesn't seem to change his line, Dorsey. He just really focuses on being late on the brakes.
You saw Ian James right there roughing up Bill Oberlin, something you don't see very often either.
Into the museum turn.
He got the worst launch out of there of the 3. This is the fast part, Calvin. You really sashay through here.
I have to wonder if any of these teams have made any tire pressure or wicker bill adjustments during that pit stop. Everyone talked about the cars going loose. Rojas had said the same thing about the 01 machine.
Watch Pruitt. He's growing impatient. He is looking for any opportunity pass. And Negri's on the inside. A block pass move on Pruitt. He's through.
That's the problem. There's the problem. And Pruitt gave him a little thanks a lot kind of nudge there.
Superb job by Osvaldo Negri.
You do not see many people do that to Scott Pruitt. That was superb.
Pruitt was totally focused on trying to find his way around and forgot totally about the fact that he had somebody like Oswaldo Negri knocking on that back door.
This is a guy who did Brazilian F3 and a lot of racing with the likes of Rubens Barrichello back in the day. Oswaldo Negri may have not have made it to the lofty heights of Formula One, but he is still one heck of a driver.
Watch this now. Pruitt's trying to work to the inside, and he's totally focused on the car in front. He leaves that gap open, and look, that's all it took.
That was tight, but good, clean racing.
Remember I said earlier, you open the door a little bit, Oswald jam it in there. Harrison Bricks under pressure here from Bert Frizzell, and on the inside is Ian James.
This is what we looked at before. Ian James was being really aggressive, had worked his way by Bill Oberlin in the 05 at the tail of that back.
Same thing happened there. Frizzell looking for a way by. He opens the door, and James walks right through it.
Oberlin gets by as well. Mark Goosens in the Riley Matthews car, immediately behind him in the 91.
Look who's in the mix now, Billy Oberlin in that bright yellow and blue car. The Luggage Express car has been capable of having some strong results here this year. They haven't really caught too many breaks recently, and here we see that battle once again.
They suffer this weekend from lack of track time, like we were talking about before. Have had 3 engine changes over the weekend, really kept them in the garage more than on the racetrack.
You have never seen anyone looking more intently and intensely at the racetrack than Negri's teammate Mark Patterson.
Patterson standing by, watching Oswaldo Negri. Great run out there. You saw the pass on Scott Pruitt. Oz doesn't really care about Pruitt's championship, does he right now, Mark?
Not respectful enough. I tell you, he couldn't get past Al-Hadef earlier, right? Al-Hadef did a great job holding up a bunch of fast drivers, but when it really matters, Oz made a great pass on Scott here.
Did you guys make any changes to the car on the pit stop, that last pit stop?
None whatsoever. The car's great. We're trimmed out compared to other people, so we got to watch it coming out of these high traction, slow corners in first gear where we're chewing up the tires a little bit, but straight line, we're just fine. Just
going fast, trying to get to the front, guys.
Of course, it wasn't Al-Hadef he was talking about. It was, in fact, Bill Oberlin, which is why it's awfully hard to get around Bill when he doesn't want to be passed.
Now, has Pruitt got anything for him? There's a nice buffer back to Harrison Bricks. Then it's Ian James. And then this man here, Bill Oberlin, will ride with the Californian. Bergmeister's run wide. Negri's through, Pruitt's through, so Pruitt's got 2 positions in the 1 corner.
Have to wonder when there was contact there. We're seeing smoke on the 60 machine. Maybe he made a move on Bergmeister, pushed him wide, and Pruitt took advantage.
I think it's exactly what happened, Calvin. That's tire rub smoke, I believe it is. Keep an eye on this.
It is a hot spot of the track. You can really execute some moves up there. Andy Lally made a move on the last corner, last lap yesterday to grab second in the GT race. We saw Negri's move 2 laps ago. What has happened up in turn 14?
There's such a fine line around this narrow racetrack between being aggressive and being overly aggressive. There you see Ian James diving down the inside of Harrison Briggs. Good move by James.
Here comes Orbelin though. Side by side, it's a drag race. The BMW and the Pontiac. Orbelin will win this one.
And he's got damage to the left front corner as well. He's been alongside someone.
This is busy in the mid-pack. This is 9, 10, 11, 12.
These guys all roughing each other up to make the pass. We'll take a look at what has been happening, actually.
This is what happened at the top. Negri on the inside of Bergmeister. They take it way wide.
You know what? Ozzie just didn't let him turn in, did he?
He just dived down the inside there, Dorsey. Took the line away. Now we're on board with him. A better look.
Up the inside, very tight. They bumped, they hit.
That was really an opening that wasn't there, Dorsey. Way aggressive move by Osvaldo Negri. Pruitt took advantage, got through cleanly, fortunately. Have to wonder about the damage to that 60 machine. Looks like the smoke has eased. Maybe the tire's just been ground down a little bit.
It was a bigger hit than what we first thought it was. He really slammed in there, got into the side of York quite hard, which pushed him offline. Pruitt was the big recipient of the win on that deal. But in the meantime, this left rear tire is still rubbing the bodywork.
Have to watch the lap times and see if they increase. Will give us an indication if there are troubles with the 60 machine.
Chris Neville's in the Seagull Sport pit. Tell us more, Chris, about the 05.
Well, we talked about the engine problems they had earlier in the weekend. The first motor went because the car was just running a little bit too lean, not getting the right fuel mixture to the engine. The second one, just a fluke. Some debris had fallen into the motor, but everything going well right now. And they said, you know what? The car was just good out of the box. We didn't get much track time. Bill was going back and forth from here to Mid-Ohio, and we just got really lucky. With the setup that we came here with is pretty much the setup that's on the car.
It's still Alex Gurney who leads this motor race with just a little over 1 hour to go as Orbelin continues to pressure Ian James. Gurney and Brown 1 and 2, and they have something like a 6-second margin over the third place Max Angelelli.
Well, I wonder if Bill Orbelin, since he stole that winglet off somebody else's car, is getting better front downforce now. It's kind of
a bit, Dorsey, instead of taking away. You talked about the leaders they'll lead. They are running lap times over a second clear at the rest of the field. It looks like Colin Brown is definitely up to the task today.
It could be their first win. Here is Gurney. Where is Brown? Is he close enough? He's about 1.2 seconds back. There's Colin.
'46. You are at the end, man. Better looking for some other easy job.
Good to have somebody older than me on the circuit out here besides Hurley. Happy birthday, Calvin.
I thought it was actually 66.
Calvin Fish, te deseo un feliz cumpleaños.
Happy birthday, Calvin. I understand the AARP is always knocking on your door.
86. 26? 46? No way. He's way older than that.
Calvin is 56 years old. Oh, my God. Happy birthday, man.
Calvin was 6 years older than me. Now he's 3 years younger than me.
Calvin Fish, happy birthday, dude. 46? You sure it's not 56? Yeah, right.
Nothing comes between me and our Calvins. Happy birthday!
You're in trouble now, you are.
Well, the girls made up for it.
As you can see, we don't let anyone off the hook here very lightly. Angelelli is coming under siege from David Donohue. Last time round, Donohue was about 0.3 of a second quicker than Angelelli. Is fatigue setting in the 10 SunTrust car? We will find out. But tell us more about the 58, Chris.
Well, you guys were speculating, was there any changes done to that car? And Darren Law said, hey, the car was really good today. I think we nailed the setup. But the big thing, since his cool suit wasn't working, he was able to communicate that to David Donahue before he got in. So David took his off so he didn't have to carry that extra weight and that extra heat since the suit was not working. They think David should be fine since he knew going in the suit wasn't going to work.
We hear so many times of cool suits failing. Why?
There's a bunch of different things that can happen to the cool suit. One is that the ice in the chest melts too quickly, and then that water heats up from the amp as you sit on them, or you can have them caught up in your seat belts, your shoulder harnesses, can crimp them off. There's an electric pump that can fail, the wiring to the switch, a lot of different reasons. The one thing about it is, though, that if you're wearing one and it goes out, you're in deep trouble because the insulation doesn't allow any breathing from the air.
It's unusual to see them fail on the first stint. Typically, as you mentioned, Dorsey, after a driver change or it doesn't get replenished during that middle stint, another driver gets in is when you see the issues. The one good thing, we saw that cool vest, as they call it, was on one of the drivers there. It's really just cotton with those little capillaries running around it. In the old days, like when we ran, which was a lot of time ago, Dorsey, they were like a plastic vest, and when they failed, you literally baked yourself.
Oh, look at Orbelin.
And Dorsey, you were just talking about when that ice melts too quick. When I started running Trans Am, we would just use cubed ice, and that's one thing that would happen. The ice would melt way too quick. So then we started doing block ice in a freezer that was in the shape of the cooler, so it would fit perfectly in there.
Yeah, that block ice, a lot better situation.
Riding with Bill Orbelin. He currently sits in 9th. He and James have made great progress. And the next one on their shopping list is Jörg Bergmeister, who has dropped back several positions. It's Gurney, Brown, Angelelli, Donahue, Pruitt, the championship leader, then Negri recovering, and then this man here, Jörg Bergmeister, the defending series champion. Whoa, he had a big moment.
You heard it.
Hear it.
Yeah, you heard the tires squeal on like crazy.
You have to wonder if he suffered any damage to the right side of that car. Dorsey took a pretty big hit by Negri. Maybe it twigged the rear suspension, so he's got some toe issues.
Good point. It doesn't take much of a hit on that wheel. And we'll take a look at what we just heard and didn't see. Watch when he turns back here. Oh, that was edgy.
Playing with the throttle there, just feathering it through that corner. Nice save by Jörg. So much experience. Won 2 championships this year. Leads another one. This one looks like it's going to be a bit out of reach. They've had a tough season.
Well, you can tell just as soon as he touched that throttle and set the car in motion, he realized that he just leveled off and let it catch up with it. Yeah, he's going to be caught up quickly, though. His car is off. Either the tires are off on that car or maybe the damage, like you say, when he had that contact. But Ian James is already all over the back of him.
Confirmation from race control. No penalty to the 60 of Oswaldo Negri.
Well, I think they've definitely changed their tune a little bit. We saw a lot more contact at Iowa, where people didn't get penalties, and here today we're seeing a bit more contact. And to be honest with you, Dorsey, I'd rather see that. I'd rather the boys go racing hard and not be worried about that drive down pit lane, which absolutely kills your race.
I agree totally. And ultimately, it's self-policing, as we saw with Colin Braun this weekend, going and giving a payback. Now, I'm not saying payback's the right thing to do, but if you let it happen, the guys will sort it out amongst themselves.
Here's Mark Goosens chasing Bert Frizzell. And just like Patrick Carpentier and many others, will also partake in that Busch Series race at Montreal.
Oberlin just got alongside Ian James. He had the nose of the BMW-powered car right there alongside.
This is the fight for 11th. Frizzell holds on to that at the moment. Here's James, here's Oberlin, then Harrison Briggs. Then Bert Frizzell. Of course, that rotating drive situation with he and his brother Brian.
First, we've seen a Mark Goosens, too, at the back of that pack.
And he is one fast race car driver. Has made the commitment now. Moved over from Belgium. Now lives in the Carolinas and is working hard on this DP program, as well as to trying to break into the NASCAR ranks full-time. But Billy Oberlin, Ian James, they know each other well. They've been teammates before with the PTG group in GT racing. So good friends off the racetrack, but right now they're both going to be given 100%.
I think Jörg's in trouble, guys. I really do. I just saw how slow he was off that corner. I think that his tires are just completely gone.
Further up at the front of the pack, Donahue is really applying the pressure to Max Angelelli. What's going on at Wayne Taylor Racing, Chris?
Wayne, we've heard over the radio a couple times Max having a problem with his cool suit today. He got in very early in this race. Is he going to be all right?
Yeah, he'll be fine. He did have a problem, but it seems to be fixed, and he's fine. We're managing him very well. Hey, Calvin, happy birthday. I thought I'd buy you a present because you're going to need them from now on. These are reading glasses for when you turn 46, buddy.
It's a nice payback.
They're better design than the ones he normally wears.
So that was good to get that update on Angelelli. Wayne Taylor, team principal, team owner, saying that things are okay inside the 10. Donahue is showing some promise here, isn't he, in the Red Bull Porsche? This is encouraging. Need to squeeze in another quick break. We'll come back to see if he can get by Max the Axe. only is Bob Stallings Gainsco Racing good on the track, they're fabulous off the track. That's their show car. They plan on having it at 125 different events throughout this season. They've already done 76 appearances. They take it to insurance industry conventions and insurance agency appearances, and they've exposed the message of the Rolex Sports Car Series and the Gainsco car to over 135,000 attendees at those various functions. So they're working very hard off the track. And someone who is off track too is Michael Valiente. What's the story, Chris?
Well, they had such a good weekend last week at Iowa, but problems here today. What was going on with the 19 car?
You know, we were running pretty strong there, and we just lost the drive shaft once I was working my way up. So it's unfortunate to go too early because we had a lot of people from Mission Residential who is our main sponsor.
Well, these guys were strong last week. I'm sure we'll see another good run from them this year.
And, of course, a drive shaft in one of these cars, unlike a street car, these are transaxle cars, and the drive shaft is actually one of the half shafts of the axle, so he lost the drive to the rear wheel. Transmission itself, probably okay, but the link between it and the wheel, gone.
They were looking at the two leaders. These boys are running right around the 123 flat range. And no one else right now in this field, on the last lap at least, is in the 23-second range at all. So they've got about a second clear of the leaders. Pruitt laid one down in the 23s. And here we see problems for Goossens, who's having a pretty strong run here today. So we're unsure right now whether that car is done or whether he's trying to fix it.
He just said I can't restart it. So
and if it is done, we could see our third full course yellow.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's sitting off the side of the road.
That's going to be a key strategy call for these boys. We're trying to work out on fuel here. Everyone's saying they're going to be very tight to get to the finish here. The cautions are helping. It was supposed to be a 109-lap race or 2.5 hours. We now look like we're going to time. So that lap number is being reduced, and that may bring them back into their fuel window. But we may see someone a little deeper in the pack take some fuel.
Brian? Checked in with Bill Riley. Seems that the 91 has a problem with the engine, guys. He said, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I think we've lost the motor.
Right, do we see any driver changes go down here? Do we see them dive in for fresh tyres? Our third full course caution period of this race. Less than an hour to go, less than 50 minutes to go.
Someone I think who may make a dive for pit lane is possibly the 39 machine. Harrison Brick's currently running up in the top 10.
All right, the rescue team will go and retrieve Mark Goossens and the Riley Matthews machine. We'll be back in just a moment. If you're just tuning in, this is what has happened thus far at Barber Motorsports Park, round 10 of the Rolex Series. Mamo Rojas drops a couple of wheels off on the opening lap and was shuffled back several positions. Tracy Crone finds Chris Zakeris in the middle of turn 5. Crunch. Hurley Hayward was involved in that as well, and that was the end of the day for Zakeris and the Sitco Samax team. Then John Pugh and Tracy Crone got together, and it was a hairy ride for the Mike Shank Racing driver. Got back to pit lane okay, though, and then when he inherited the lead of the race, Christian Fittipaldi threw it away in spectacular fashion, coming onto the front straight. There was some good, hard racing at the front of this pack. It is hot, humid, and very testing conditions here in Alabama. And then Nick Johnson and Alex Gurney had a tremendous scrap at the front. Gurney just catching that one. Watch this for a move that did not pay off. Oswaldo Negri on the inside of Jörg Bergmeister. They came together, no penalty handed down. And then Mark Goossens in the Riley Matthews machine coming to a halt. And that is the reason for this third yellow. Hi folks, welcome back to Speed's live coverage of sports cars. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader with you here, and Brian Till and Chris Neville working pit road. It's the end of that third caution. We go back racing. Has Colin Brown got anything for Alex Gurney?
See Colin Brown there taking a little weave as he's going down there. He may have got some pickup on his tyres. The problem is when you stay out with hot tyres, you start to pick up some of those marbles that are laying around the racetrack, the little balls of rubber, and it takes a while to get those cleaned off.
Did you notice how Alex Gurney didn't allow him to get that big run at him that time?
Defending to the inside, it looks like.
David Donoghue working on Max Angelelli. Didn't quite get the opening he was hoping for. It's helped championship points leader Scott Pruitt. He's the 5th car in the line.
I think Gurney's in trouble with pickup on the tires. He defended that time, and it looks like he's not up to speed. Doesn't look like he's got the speed Colin Brown does.
These two guys have been putting in some amazing lap times before that full course yellow. Angelelli is still under siege from Donoghue, and Pruitt is watching it.
Saw some tire debris come off from underneath the 99 that time.
What happens happens is, Dorsey, those little marbles collect to almost form like a rubber snowball, and sometimes they'll just spit it out, maybe damage those louvers in the top side of the bodywork there on the nose. After a couple of laps, you can normally clean those off unless you run offline again to get around traffic. There you see Gurney running that narrow entry to turn 14.
I think that's why we saw him go defensive right away. He realized right away, I don't have the front grip to make this car turn. I'm going to have to be defensive until I can get this problem taken care of.
We could have yet another first-time winner in 2007. It's the green and blue car sitting second. Colin Brown, if he can get by the Gainsco Insurance Pontiac.
So who's looking strong right now, Dorsey, is Scott Pruitt, currently running fifth. I think he has a bit more speed than maybe David Donahue and Max Angelelli. It's going to be tough to pass around this narrow racetrack, as we know.
Brown is right on Gurney, and Donahue almost on the inside of Angelelli.
And they do that one or more 2 times, and Pruitt will be by both of them before they know it.
Brian?
Well, the full course caution, not good for the 99 Gainsco team. You guys talking about pickup? Yeah, Gurney definitely had that. The biggest problem was fuel mileage. They were convinced that the 99 could make it to the end, but they said by their calculations, there's no way the 01 could. So during that full course caution, that allowed Scott Pruitt to ease up on fuel a little bit. It will allow him to get to the end without having to dip the pit lane. That is not good news for the championship hopes of Alex Gurney and John Fogerty. They needed more positions between themselves and Scott Pruitt.
I spoke to Pruitt about Iowa last week, of course, when he and Rojas were victorious. I said, how bad was the fuel at the end? And he looked at me and he said, we were out. Well, we were done.
They didn't make it back around on the last lap. I mean, he had put the reserve pump on 5 laps earlier.
Here he comes. He's working on David Donahue. There's a gap second to third, as you can see, but the pressure is now on the Red Bull driver.
Absolutely. There's also pressure at the front as well. Look at this. Colin Brown is really heaping it on the leader, Alex Gurney.
Chris?
Lee, during that caution, lots of communication back and forth between the Red Bull crew and David Donahue. David was wondering what was going on with the 10 car, who was behind the wheel, because he knew that Max Angelelli had gotten in early in the race. He thought maybe Mamo Gidley was back behind the wheel, but the team was ensuring him, no, it's Max in the car. He's been in it for a long time, and he's been having cool suits problems. So, David, you've got to get out there, and you've got to attack him hard, because Max has got to be worn out.
That's good information right there to know. I mean, that is exactly what you do. Once you know the guy in front of you is weakened by anything, you attack, you attack.
Once again, the leaders are just streaking away about a second a lap. There you see them way up ahead. This is just after 3 laps of going back to green flag racing, so the gap is already up there around 3 seconds between Colin Brown and Angelelli.
Angelelli has been in that car for 60 laps, and he is doing a very good job in trying conditions. Behind these top 5, Oswaldo Negri, we ride with him right now. Then Bergmeister, Bill Aublin, Ian James have just swapped. Well, they've swapped in Dorsey talk.
There you go.
And then Harrison Bricks is in the top 10. Speaking of the Ruby Tuesday car, Patrick Long has got a very busy schedule ahead. Most of us with the Rolex Sports Car Series are looking forward to next weekend off. Patrick flies out tomorrow. He's doing the Spa 24-hour with the same team he won the GT2 class with at Le Mans 24-hour this year, the IMSA Performance Matmut team with Raymond Narak and Richard Leeds. So he's very excited about that.
Life of a factory driver, Dorsey. You've been there before. I mean, they just really put the pressure on. It's great to get that contract, but you do not get a weekend off. Aublin looks to the inside.
Oh, that was close to
really tight.
Heard the tires squealing, too, and that's not brake lockup that you heard right there. That's the fact that this racetrack is so slippery. The cars are just sliding along under 4 tires.
Bergmeister was saying, oh, not again. I've already been served up once today.
Aublin's had a busy weekend, ran in mid-Ohio yesterday with the Panos group. Came here overnight, had a GS race this morning in the Coney Challenge, and here we see him again. So, Bill earning his wage packets this weekend, Dors.
Back up front, and Gurney has got a bit of an advantage now, Dors.
And Gurney, another guy who's been in the race car a long, long time. Doesn't seem to be affecting him too much, though. He's opening up a little bit of a gap over Colin Brown, and I think it's basically he's finally got his tires in. He's finally got rid of all that debris, that pickup, and he's able to run well again.
Guys, I just checked in with Nick Janssen. I said, Nick, who wants it more? He said, Colin definitely does, and Alex has the most to lose. So we've got that on our side, and also Colin Fresher. Remember, Dorsey, you just pointed it out. Alex Gurney will have been in that car 2 hours and 5 minutes at the checkered flag. So right now, Colin Brown, a little fresher driver, a little bit younger, but that shouldn't matter too terribly much. But more importantly than anything, he has that desire to get up there. And once again, Alex Gurney has a lot to lose. The championship could go if he makes it too hard.
75 has had 4 podium appearances this year, a pair of seconds, a pair of thirds, but what's gnawing at them the most, there has not been a victory next to their car this year. Points as of now, an 11-point advantage to Pruitt if they stay as is, and Angelelli would just hang on to his second place. So he would take 4 points out of Scott Pruitt with 4 more rounds to go after today. Chris?
Well, Lee, you're talking about points, and that's exactly what the Telmex boys are thinking about. Scott Pruitt running back there in 5th. The team saying to Scott, don't worry about it. If you can grab a couple spots, that's great. But the position we're in, let's play it conservative. Let's points race this thing through the rest of the year and not take any big risks.
Pretty hard to do that when you're a racer, isn't it?
It's really tough. Scott Pruitt has the experience. He looks at the big picture as well as the moment he's indoorsy, and that's the difference between he and a lot of the other drivers out there. He has many years under his belt. He's won so many championships. He can think ahead a little bit more.
And it's easier for a driver to be able to back off and have that discipline after he's won those championships. For a guy who's never won one before, on the other hand, to tell him, don't worry about it, just slow up. Well, that's not a racer's way, is it? Slow up.
Just over half an hour remains in round 10 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. We're going to see tyres deteriorate, drivers deteriorate, fatigue. This final half an hour is going to be very trying.
That's going to be the key, Lee, as you mentioned, tyres. This is going to be a lengthy stint. We're expecting to go about 100 laps or so, trying to time it out. It's going to be a 2:30-minute race right now. That'll be a very long stint, about 54 laps on these tyres.
What are your thoughts on the tyres, Brian?
Well, remember, Nick Johnson said at the beginning of this race, look, we ran on old tires the entire time, saved 3 new sets for this race. This car is set up to run on old tires. They may have a distinct advantage at the end, because by the end of this race, guys, you were just pointing it out, they're going to be out of fuel, out of tires, and out of gas, literally in the driving compartment.
And by running on old tires, they got the right kind of data as to what the race car is going to do, what it's going to be like when those tires wear out. So they can adjust the car to be optimum at its worst. That way, as it goes along, it should say at a higher rate of speed than these other cars, which will drop off even more yet.
The key is to have some adjustability inside the cockpit, so as the balance changes, you can actually dial it back towards a neutral condition.
We saw that in the GT race for sure. You know, the Banner Pontiac boys did the best job of being able to run, even though the car was falling off badly, it was still able to run at a higher speed than any other car out there.
The top 2 have bolted. There's now about a 7.5-second gap between second and third. And there is the third place car of Max Angelelli, then David Donahue, then Scott Pruitt. It's a Pontiac-powered Riley, a Porsche-powered Riley, a Lexus-powered Riley. 3rd, 4th and 5th. And here comes Oswaldo Negri. Can't seem to get any ground on Pruitt at the moment after putting off a super move in turn 14. It was very slick, it was very tidy, it was opportunistic, but gee, it was good. That was earlier in the race, but it came undone when he tried to pull the same move off on Jörg Bergmeister, and it did not work. World-class motorsport continues here on Speed today. Later tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, it is a super rivalry. The AMA Superbike, it's Ben Speeds, it's Matt Mladen, Suzuki teammates, and these guys don't take it easy on each other. And that's tonight at 11, the AMA Superbikes. This is Sports Cars on Speed, though, the Rolex Sports Car Series, and this is the son of a legend. The son of Dan Gurney. This is Alex, a 4-time winner this year in this series. An excellent performance.
Well, let me tell you about an excellent performance. He just cracked off a lap at 22.80 about a lap ago, exactly a lap ago, and that almost equals the fastest time of all these. It's not too far off qualifying speed, and on a racetrack that we realize is very, very slippery right now.
I'm sorry, I just gave them an extra victory, a 3-time winner this year, I should say. For the 99 machine. Can they get another victory, or will it be the 75? Let's find out more from the Chrome Camp.
Talk about can they get a victory. They're going to have to get by the number 75, Jeff Hazel. Right now, Colin Brown seemed to be holding station, just laying back and waiting to save the tires to the end, or is he letting it all hang out right now?
Well, we're comfortable where we are right now. Yeah, we're comfortable.
Jeff, always a man of few words. What about fuel?
Fuel's a little tight, but it's a little tight for everybody else too. Okay, so I think we're just going to wait and see how it runs out. I think that's the case up and down the pit road.
Yeah, we're playing a game of wait and see. 30 more minutes, we'll find out. But it's getting hot out there, guys. Check out this thermometer. 103 degrees down here on pit lane right now.
Well, that's what the fuel usually does, too. It runs out. That's what he's talking about.
Angelelli still maintains third. He's doing a good, solid job there. While we're away, though, Alex Gurney just turned an amazing lap time in the high 122s, and now Colin Brown has just matched him his last lap at a 122.82. They are flying.
That Colin Brown's was the fastest lap of the race, so he is absolutely on the pace right now, and we're going to come up against some traffic issues for everyone before this thing is over.
Now,
He'll close that gap.
In perspective, those two cars at that speed are outrunning the field by 2 seconds a lap. So, I mean, there's a two-car battle right now that is just huge compared to everyone else.
This thing is going to heat up. I know that the team have told Scott. And then here we see Orblin going down to the inside of Bergmeister.
Oh, and he spins himself, trying not to make contact. Good recovery.
Try to bail out of that situation and just pinch the corner a little bit further. That's a tricky corner down there, Dorsey. Downhill. As you rotate the car in, it just got away from him.
He wanted so much not to make contact that he got all the way to the inside, pitched into the corner, staying on the brake is not to make contact, spun himself out. They might have touched, but it was his going around.
Was in 8th, drops to 12th.
Bergmeister survived a few hits today, so great job by him and his car control. But Billy Orblin putting the pressure on. We'll take another look at it, Dors.
Well, he gets in there really deep, no question about it. You see right here, he's trying not to make contact, but I think they did touch. And with the car bound up like that, Calvin, with that touch, it's all it did was... Here you see, yeah, no doubt. No doubt they touched, but he gets the worst of the wear.
Came from a long way back, and York was already arcing into the corner.
Good save by York, though, eh?
And Billy drove himself out of trouble there, getting out of harm's way. That's exactly where we saw Chris Zakeris get hit by Tracy Crone. Chris?
Lee, I think we're starting to see some desperate moves out on the racetrack. A lot of chatter back and forth between the teams that are behind the 10 car. A lot of guys feeling that they can go a little bit quicker. It's just very tough to pass around this racetrack. So it's going to be the question now, are these guys going to start making some desperate moves because nobody's trying to get around Max Angelelli?
Well, this is the run to home. It's less than 20 laps. Less than 25 minutes. This is what it looks like if you're York Bergmeister.
Watch our camera. Hey.
They're expensive.
Well, that was close, wasn't it?
Well, you have to wonder, he's took a hit on both sides now, Dorsey. Maybe it'll straighten it out and get it balanced again.
Got it back in alignment.
I think Chris brought up a great point about people will get frustrated. Max Angelelli is running about a second and a half slower than the leaders right now, and he's almost formed like a bit of a filter between the two leaders and the rest of the field. And I think if some of these guys could clear Angelelli, they may be able to run a little bit quicker.
Word from the Alex Jobe Ruby Tuesday Championship Racing Team. 23 is okay. We're doing all right. Is David Donahue doing all right? Feeling the pressure from Scott Pruitt in this run to home.
Now, here's the thing. You can't use up your car before the end of this race. We've still got quite a ways to go, not really long, but if you wanted to mount a charge right now, if it took you 4 laps, say, to get around Darren right there, what would you have left when you had to go to the next guy?
Well, you're going to make your mind up. Do we have a long time or not long?
Well, it's a little long time. It's not a long time per se, but it's not 10 laps to go yet either.
Pruitt there probing. Looked like he's a little bit quicker through the middle of that corner, but he had to check up by the pace of Donahue. So is Donahue feeling the heat now in terms of that balance of the race car? So critical that the car stays underneath you for the last few laps. Most of the cars have gone loose today. Did the Brumos team get it right?
Donahue won't like that probing, I know that much.
More on the 58.
We just checked in with that team, and they were saying that David keeps getting a run at the 10 car, but he's not able to get around it. But when he gets up tight to Angelelli, the engine temp starts going up. So what you're seeing right now is he's backing off, trying to cool down the tires, cool down the engine, so hopefully he can make another charge back up to Max. However, when he does that, he starts falling back to Pruitt.
Look at Scott Pruitt. This is his time. He feels he's got a chance now on the Porsche driver ahead of him. Donahue sits in 4th. Pruitt in the 01 Telmex Lexus thinks he has a chance.
Well, Negri's right there too, and remember what happened before. Pruitt's got to really pay attention to his rearview mirror as well as try to make that run on Donahue.
I think that may force Scott's hand here a little bit to be a bit more aggressive rather than sitting back, because he realizes that Negri is aggressive. He doesn't want to see that gap shrink any further.
And it is not over at the front of this pack either. Colin Brown has reduced the margin. Alex Gurney is under pressure.
Yeah, now you see it for sure. Colin has decided, I'm going to make a run right now. I'm going to try to get past this 99 and see what happens.
And Brian brought up a great point to Nick Jans on who wants it more. Colin Brown wants his first victory of the season, and he knows he's really an outside chance for this championship at this stage. Gurney thinks he's definitely in the hunt, so I'm sure the crew at Gainsco are talking to Alex about the pace of these two cars and talking him through this.
And remember, it's been 1 year exactly since that car won last.
The order at the moment: Gurney, Brown, Angelelli, Donahue, Pruitt, top 5. Negri, Bergmeister, Ian James, and then Max Pappas is in the 10, Brian.
I was going to say, guys, the 75, not the only Krone car doing well. Pappas is taking that car from 2 laps down, running 9th now. Got a little help from the lucky dog rule as he moves up on some of those full course cautions. But Max has his head down, showing everybody that he is still a very fast race car driver and has a seat and deserves it as well, guys.
And Brian, they also made a great strategy call when we had that last caution period. He's one of the last cars on the lead lap, so they brought him in. It was really a freebie. Got some fresh, huger rubber on that 76 machine.
This is getting good. Now, Colin really applying the pressure to Alex. Remember, Alex has been in the car a very long time. He's got to be tired. He's got to be hot. And now this pressure is going to be immense.
Well, Colin doesn't want to go off to the ARCA Remax Series not having won in the Rolex Series this year in 2007. He's got such a bright, exciting future. He would love to be on the top step of the podium. And why not do it right here, right now in Alabama? Tomorrow at 9 here on Speed, it's Payback. The Edge. Ed Jaron James puts family first with an all-new Escalade, because when you make it to the top, you've got to say thank you in a big way. That's what Payback is all about. Tomorrow at 9 Eastern, exclusive to Speed. We are back, and with thanks to our friends at Porsche, we are taking you all the way to the checkered flag. Just a little under 20 minutes remaining in this race, and this is a gripping battle at the front. 2 Pontiac-powered Rileys, 2 great young drivers, Gurney and Brown, going hard at it. This is far from over. And talk about the pressure pit. It's got to be that at Gainsco.
You can feel the pressure down here, Lee. Bob Stallings, you're watching Alex right now. Colin really putting the pressure on. I've already spoken to Nick Johnson. He said Colin wants this more, and I know you guys are thinking championship. Is second place okay here?
Well, first, hi to Dan Gurney out there. But now, you know what? We're getting pretty close to the end of the season. We'd like to win this one. The race is up to Alex. He's a smart kid. He knows what he's doing. We'll let him call it.
You're not going to make a call at all and say, just get it, make sure we get a finish here?
Nah, he knows what to do.
A lot of faith in their driver down here, guys. They're going to let him go to the end.
Well, one thing is for sure, and that is Alex Gurney is a very smart driver, and he knows the calculated risk of doing what he's doing right now. You know, he'd like to get that win and get the points. He needs the points, but on the other hand, the man behind him is no factor whatsoever in the championship. He has all to win, nothing to lose.
Well, right now we haven't really seen a big move or lunge by Colin Brown. He's just been kind of hovering on the tailpipes of Alex Gurney, and I'm sure at this stage of the game, Dorsey, he would know if Alex has a weakness, which is probably not a big one, if any, around this racetrack, and he realizes he's going to have to be very close to make a move. I would have to think that traffic may be his best opportunity, but with no GT cars today, that's a tough one also.
I did see Alex's car step out a little bit on the last corner coming on the pit straightaway. It actually lit up the rear tires, and he did a great job of holding it in line, but it shows a lack of rear grip coming on.
Isn't it amazing what victories can do for confidence? It was an amazing round at Mexico City earlier this year in March when the 99 Gainsco Pontiac won its first race in gripping circumstances. And which was the car they were going head-to-head with? It was the car right behind them. a thrilling finish. Is it building for another one?
Colin Brown there took a very tight line, showing the handling capabilities of the 75 machine there, and he is being extremely patient here today, Dorsey. These boys are running nose to tail, and their lap times are not differing by more than 100th of a second or so each lap they cross the stripe. So two very fast cars, still about a second and a half clear of the rest of the field. So unless there's an incident, victory will come from one of these two cars today.
Well, the first time in this half of the season, I've seen the 99 car start to not look like it's on a rail anymore. Starting to move around on the racetrack. So we'll see soon.
Moved around big time before. That super catch from Gurney. This is Negri. Looking at Pruitt. Pruitt's at Donahue, and Donahue at Angelelli.
The one saving grace for Pruitt is we have to think about the big corporate involvement here in the Grand American Racing Series. Two Lexus-powered cars. You have to wonder what Oz is thinking about if he was to force the issue with Pruitt, who is the championship leader, running under the Lexus banner also.
And Lexus not too far behind Pontiac in the race for the manufacturer's engine championship. Pontiac leads on 295 points and Lexus on 277. So that battle is not over yet. We head to Montreal next, then Watkins Glen for the short race, then to Sonoma in California at Infineon, and then we finish at Miller Motorsports Park in Utah. And Colin Brown almost slams into the back of Alex Gurney. He almost overdid it at turn 5.
I don't know, Dorsey. I wonder if he was caught unawares there. I'm sure he wasn't looked around braking, whether he just missed a downshift or maybe Alex just checked up a little bit more than he was expecting.
In any event, it was a mistake, and it's a mistake that could flat spot the tires. I don't think it did. He didn't have them locked up that long, but contact was very close to happening right there. And that's not what either one of these guys need right now.
That would have been a heart rate spike for not only for Colin Brown, but for Nick Johnson, his new co-driver, sitting back at the pit box. And here's the replay. Brown again into 5.
Boy, he just misjudged it, I think, Calvin. You were talking about that. He just got too close in there and was just off a little bit and had to really slam the brakes on at the last moment to avoid contact.
Now the key will be in terms of who has the pace. Can Colin Brown get that gap back down again and get back on the tail of Gurney? So this next lap will be telling.
Well, he's got plenty of time. He's got 13 minutes to catch that back up, and it won't take that long, I don't believe. It's easy when you're right behind the guy and you can see him like that to nip away at him a little bit, get a foot here, a foot there. That's until you get to his tailgate. Once you're there, though, getting around the guy is a whole different story.
Remember, we talk about the heat in the cockpits. That definitely has an effect on your concentration level. So Nick Johnson looked very fresh, talked about the great cooling systems they had in the 75 car, but if Colin Brown is having any types of issues, that's when you're going to make mistakes.
And is he anxious? No, not at all. He's used to that because his lovely wife, Elaine, is about to give birth to their first child. So he's been walking on eggshells for quite some time. And Elaine is well known here in the Grand Am paddock for her work with Stand 21. So from all of us here, we wish you well. Hope it all goes well. Bergmeister looking at Negri here. Turn 5 is a bit of payback. There's a little bit of payback for you.
Same kind of deal, but I don't think he's going to. Maybe he'll get by. I don't know. Drag race is on.
How about that?
Bergmeister has come back alive here in the last few laps. He took the other hit from Bill Oberlin. Seems to be going quicker.
So I told you it'd be self-policing if you let it happen.
What did Jeff Hazel tell us earlier? Anger's worth a 10?
Yes, it is. Here you go, watch. Remember this? Remember this move? Hey, how do you like it?
Racing incident as I see it. Bergmeister having a look down the inside. It wasn't a desperate lunge, Dorsey.
Well, no one passed anyone and no one spun out, so I'm sure it's going to be all fine. It's just a reminder. It's a wake-up call. That's all it is.
Good catch from Oz.
Absolutely.
Less than 10 laps to go, just over 10 minutes to go. Round 10 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. 3 full course cautions, 3 cars retired from this race. The attrition rate has not been too high, but the action has been brilliant.
Up front, Colin Brown took about a 10th and a half out of Alex Gurney's lead, so he has a fast enough race car. He has enough time, but passing him will be a different story.
Gurney, Brown, Angelelli, Donahue. Bergmeister thinks about it on Oz. Ian James is looking, and so too is Max Pappas. Pappas could leapfrog several positions here. This could be a very encouraging result for the 76 Krone car.
What a run for those guys, Dorsey. I mean, they've really got the handle on this racetrack. Both cars running strong.
Got to be very cautious, Calvin. Sorry to interrupt there. Very cautious with what pass attempts now, because look at Max. Max is going to be there, and he's got a lot to show right now.
Remember, he has much fresher tires than the rest of these boys. They made that great call under that last caution. Got some fresh rubber on.
Lexus, Porsche, Lexus, Pontiac. Mid-pack. Here we go. Colin Brown has caught Alex Gurney again. But can he get by with 10 minutes to go?
Well, this is where Alex Gurney needs a good corner man. He needs somebody talking to him on the radio, keeping him up. He's going to be really hot. He's going to be really tired, and they're going to just keep talking him up, saying, keep up on top of that wheel, man. Just keep going. You're all right. He can't pass you if you don't make a mistake. Keep your head on straight. A few laps to go.
It's a real family affair with the Browns. Jeff and Diane, his folks, very heavily involved in his career and raising him to be such the driver that he is right now. His brother Travis works here in the press room as a journalist, writing for various publications. They are heavily involved in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and next year the family turns their attention to the ARCA Remax Series. But how much a win would mean to this young man, to Nick Johnson, to the team, after several points of frustration this year. Brian?
Guys, we talk about the driver fatigue factor as they come onto the front straightaway. Colin looks like he has a pretty good run, but remember, Alex Gurney has been in this hot seat before, quite literally in the hot seat, because we remember when he ran with the team owner, Bob Stallings, they had this situation a lot where Alex was in the car for almost 2 hours. He's more used to it than probably any other driver out in the field. Right now, still holding on to that lead with now 9 minutes to go. Chris?
Well, Brian, the boys upstairs were just talking about Alex having to make a mistake for Colin to get around him, and that's exactly what Jeff Hazel is hoping for. He's saying these guys are pushing so hard. They're running just perfect laps right now, and nobody is making a mistake. And if Alex does, Colin will be there to pounce, but other than that, it's going to be very difficult for Colin to make a move.
That was such a great point that Brian brought up there about Alex being used to running 2 hours plus in these cars, and that's what it's all about, Dorsey, is the experience and the conditioning. You can spend hours in the gym each week, but there's nothing like being in the heat of this cockpit and being in this situation.
I totally agree. There's no amount of workout in a gym that will exercise the muscles that you use when you're doing what these guys are doing right now. The heat factor is something you can't practice for. You have to just be out there in that car and get used to doing it. And remember, he's been in this situation before for over 2 hours, but I doubt he's been under this much pressure, because this has gone on now for over a half hour at least.
The second generation racer, the teenager from Texas. Who will win it? The minutes are counting down. Not many laps left here. 5 more laps roughly.
I tell you, at this stage of the game, Dorsey, this is a beautiful race by both of these young drivers. Alex Gurney has withheld the pressure that's been put on him by young Colin Brown here today, and other than that one slip under braking, Colin Brown has been flawless as well.
I remember when I drove, when they tell you only 10 minutes to go, my mind would say, I can do it now, I can make it, I know I can do 10 minutes, and then those 10 minutes seem like an hour, you know, just trying to run it off. But something mentally, within 10 minutes, you know you're good, you can make it.
Donahue has still been able to keep Scott Pruitt, the points leader, at bay. And Angelelli, 2 positions further ahead, will steal 4 points out of Scott Pruitt's championship lead. If they stay as is for the next 7 minutes, there will only be 11 points in this championship heading to Montreal in 2 weeks.
Well, Negri has dropped way back from Pruitt. Remember, he was right on Pruitt's bumper before. Now Scott has gotten away. That's a good thing for him. And this is the battle now. Max Pappas has caught up with Ian James, and they might push forward.
Here he comes, down the inside. Late on the brakes, good clean move. Ian will try and switch back there and try and get an early power down, but it's not going to work.
That's 8th place for Max Pappas after at one stage the 76 being 2 laps down.
A good move there. He tried. He'd been looking at that for about 3 or 4 laps, trying to position himself so he could get by Ian James. Now he'll set sight in front of him, try to catch the 23 and do the same.
Max Pappas said at the 2-day test they did here, they really found something with the car. They went in a completely different direction with the suspension package, and it works here. It really works here well, as you can see Colin Brown hounding the leader.
Gurney has been in this car since lap 11. We've completed lap 94. This is a huge effort. Will it take its toll? Is that how Colin Brown is going to get advantage over the 99 Gainsco car?
By Alex Gurney right now has turned into a piece of this machinery. He is melted into the 99. He's no longer thinking normal thoughts. He's just running off laps at 100% efficiency, using every bit of the road. You see it right there, turning from the same spot, braking at the same spot, and making no mistakes.
Well, one thing at the end of this race, Dorsey, a lot of the teams talked about what makes this 99 car tick. Colin Brown will have a lot of information, if nothing else, at the end of this one. He's been looking at that car for a number of laps now, but you have to wonder how patient Colin Brown will be if we get in the last lap or two and he sees even half a gap on the entry to one of these tight corners.
Well, it's only 5 minutes to go now, so it's going to really get kind of fraught. Not much time left to get a job done.
A Pontiac Riley has won 5 times this year. It is the combination, the package to have in the Rolex Sports Car Series at the moment.
The consistency of the laps that these two boys are running is remarkable. One, because the car you would think would be going off at this stage, but they are running laps in the high 22, low 23 second range, lap after lap.
Which is within a second of qualifying time. Which is super impressive.
Precision driving. This is exactly what you look for in a race car driver. If you have a team, you look for a guy that can do exactly what's being done now. Run these laps off identical.
Colin's closer. He is definitely closer right now.
Trying different lines, trying to just get Gurney off his game into the museum corner. That's as close as he's been, other than when he locked up at turn 5, and Gurney got off the museum corner well.
That's where that car is so good, Dorsey, getting the power down where it still has some steering input, and it seems like the diff setup they have allows their drivers to get the power down a little bit earlier.
That launch is the key to winning any race, just getting off that corner, getting the drag race done down to the next one. And you saw a little bobble right there. Good save. Front end gave up.
He is pushing so hard right now, using every inch of the racetrack and more.
2, maybe 3 laps remain here at Barber Motorsports Park. The Porsche 250.
That move will have Alex talking to himself in his helmet, saying, okay, now, no more of that. No more mistakes like that.
We're hearing 3 laps to go. So Brown still has time. Gurney is in the pressure seat.
The Gainsco team will be sweating. We heard what Bob Stalling said. He's going to leave it up to Alex to make the right calls, make the right decisions, try and get another win here, which will be their 5th of the season. But you got to be wondering and second-guessing yourself. That championship is getting closer.
There you heard it from the boss. Championship's coming. Keep your man up on top of that wheel. You know it's great. Nobody's locking tires up. You know they're at 100%. You know they're giving it all they got. And they're running right exactly smoothly as can be. And a good slide there.
Brown lights it up.
And you saw the 99 car. It can put the power down and stay straight. Colin tried to match the early application of the throttle and immediately throws it sideways. They've made a lot of ground. They still have a little bit of work to do in getting the power down as early as the Gainsco machine.
Wow, I tell you what, they might get the white flag out this time. It's going to be, I think we might get 2 more here.
It's the rubber band effect, isn't it? Once Colin catches him, then Alex gets away, and he catches him again, gets away again.
Well, that's the whole thing about catching a guy and passing is a different thing.
Good job, buddy. 2 to go. 2 to go. You own it, buddy. You own it.
That's the voice of Bob Stallings, team principal.
And that's what you want to hear as a driver. Have your boss telling you it's yours. You got it. You're the man.
You want to hear that at this stage? You want that pump up?
I think you do. This has been a long stint. He's been feeling the pressure. You want to know that this is a team effort. You'd win for yourself, but you also win for your teammate and the whole organization. And you want that responsibility right now. You want the ball in your hands at this stage of the game.
Colin Brown locks up right there. There's the first little mistake. It's going to cost him.
Shows you how hard he's pushing it. Drops that rear right off. No drama there. We're hearing a report that Max Pappas may have got a move on Jörg Bergmeister. Mad Max has moved up to 7th.
Colin Brown is a desperate man. It's going to show this lap. He's going to have to make something happen if he's going to get the job done. I don't think so, though. I really think Alex Gurney's digging really deep. Clouts the curb there.
This is where we saw Gurney have a nervous moment. Not through this change of direction, through the next one, up and over the hill, down through 12. Do they keep it heading in the right direction this time? Yes.
Colin Brown is throwing everything at it, but just going that extra little bit just shows he was already at 100%. And now he's starting to step over that line a little bit and lose ground to the leader.
Okay, Mr. Champion, that's a white flag you're seeing, buddy. One to go. One to go, buddy.
They're on their way home. Win number 5, less than a lap away for John Fogarty and Alex Gurney.
Even still, with it being this close, any bobble whatsoever, any stutter in the engine, any little fuel pickup problem, any issue will hurt you.
His 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It is still Angelelli, Donahue, and Pruitt. And there, Pappas is up to 6th now. He got past Oswaldo Negri. That's those fresh tyres for you.
And a good job by him, too. Not just the tires. I mean, he's driving the wheels off that car as well. He had to start well back to get up to where he's at.
We have to think about this, boys. I mean, there's a lot on the line for Max Pappas. Yes, we talk about the politics and saying the right thing. Yeah, I'm happy with this move. But it has to prickle Max a little bit to be moved out of the car with Colin and moved over to the number 76 machine.
He's got a point to prove, and he is proving it. Oh, they're getting rough back in the pack. That's Ian James on York Bergmeister.
In a slide fly right in front of him.
The 23 has been pushed back to 9th place after starting on the front row.
And look at this. Big lead.
Where's Brown?
75 is gone.
Where is Colin Brown? He's dropped back a little bit. Final 2 turns.
He had
and
a
yes,
moment.
It is win number 5.
Could it be fuel, Calvin? Do you think it's started for fuel, possibly?
They're close, but we know he was dropping wheels. Maybe he just made a big effort on that final lap. But what a performance by these guys.
Gurney and Fogarty do it. Again, well done, Bob Stallings. Well done to the Gainsco gang. Win number 5. Super performance. Ian James will stay ahead of York Bergmeister. Brown gets 2nd. That's his 3rd runner-up spot this year. And we wait for Angelelli. Oh, Pappas has run wide.
Pappas has been off the road, and all that grass and radiator means nothing, but look here.
All of those positions made have just been lost.
Oh, now he's struggling for grip. Those tires are dirty. He can't get back up to base. Bergmeister barges through.
Nothing he can do. He's a sick duck. He's been off the road. He's gathered up all the grass on the tire.
Remember, these guys ran together on the same organization last year with Chrome. They're buddies. York Bergmeister, great job. He's had a busy weekend. Shame for Max there with that little slip.
Angelelli comes through for 3rd. Donahue comes through for 4th and Pruitt 5th. But it is all about Gainsco today, Brian.
Bob Stallings shaking hands all around. 5 victories, and maybe I asked the worst question when I said, is 2nd good enough? I don't think there's any quit on this team, Bob.
He was absolutely awesome. He was in the car a long time, so I was worried about the heat. But that guy, I'm telling you, he's real hard to get around. He was absolutely awesome. He ran a really smart race. He was very, very fast. Kept his poise. He was on it, man. He was awesome.
Championship's getting closer, isn't it?
That's what I told him. I called him a champion about the last 15 laps to keep him encouraged. I was trying to cool him down a little bit out there, but man, he is awesome. He ran a great race.
Bob Stallings calls it psychic income. He says that's what this win does for me. That's what racing does for me, and they get another one, guys.
Well, Alex Gurney comes from a great bloodline, as we know, and I'm sure his dad at home will be very proud of that drive today.
And good drive, Colin Brown. Well done, mate, and well done to Nick Johnson. That was solid stuff. Now, this is what went on further back in the pack.
Max Pappas way off the outside of the road there. Shoveled up a bunch of dirt. We don't know really what it came on. We didn't see if he got helped along or what happened, but it cost him several positions, Calvin, on the very end after he worked so hard. Last lap.
Shows you how much momentum he had. He had Pruitt in sight.
He did. He's really
on.
closing that gap. He was running an awesome race. Great to see that 76 car up at the front once again. So great change there by the Krohn organization this weekend.
Pontiac Power does it again, and Riley Chassis do it again. The Gainsco crew do it again. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Ruby Tuesday, simple, fresh American dining from start to finish. And by Porsche. Porsche, there is no substitute. Back to wrap it up here at Barber Motorsports Park, and life is good when you're a winner.
Absolutely. You're not even hot when you get out of the car once you've won. Probably the most spectacular drive I've seen all year long, Alex. And I had even asked Bob at one point in time, is 2nd good enough? But it just wasn't for you, was it?
No, I mean, anytime you have a chance like that, you definitely want to win. So, wow, what a feeling. You know, that was a lot of pressure from Colin. You know, he was so quick all weekend, and I applaud him for not making a crazy move at the end there. I was expecting it with 2 corners to go, definitely. So anyways, congrats to him on a good race. But wow, that's a long day. You know, about as long as all my guys here on Bob Stallings Racing. They you know, they had 3 race weekends in a row, and that's a killer too. So I was thinking of them too.
Well, great job. 5 wins this season. And John, for you, out of the car very early, you're not even sweating anymore. But even you, I mean, when we were talking about it, did you have your doubts whether he could go to the end as brutal as it was today?
I almost don't feel qualified to talk for the job that Alex did today. It was so phenomenal. But I didn't have my doubts. Like I mentioned earlier, we worked hard on making it comfortable in the car, and I know how badly Alex wants to win once he's behind the wheel. So I was ready to get back in, but you know, the pressure that Alex was getting out there, I was really glad I didn't have to. So tremendous job that Alex did, and the crew, like you said, 3 in a row is as tough as anything. So excellent for Gainesco Auto Insurance and Pontiac, and awesome day.
Congratulations on win number 5, guys.
We do congratulate them. That's their best result here at Barber Motorsports Park. But just changing the tone a little bit, there is some concern at the moment for the health and welfare of Max Angelelli. He is not a well man at the moment. After driving 88 laps of this race, he has been in that car since lap 11. He had problems with his cool suit, and that is a driver who is extremely dehydrated and fatigued.
We've seen this situation before as Homestead 2 or 3 seasons ago, where a very similar situation with the SunTrust machine. And
this is Max after the race. Now your adrenaline shuts down. He's opened up his visor. He's hot. He's got the door open. Now when your adrenaline shuts down, it all rushes into you. The heat, the fatigue, and it's very easy to go unconscious. I've seen it happen many times.
Wayne Taylor, not only his boss, but his very close friend, right along his side. And thank you, Max is in very safe and good hands down there. Chris?
Well, Colin Brown gets his best finish since VIR. Colin, it looked like you were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at the 99 car. But did you have anything left in your bag of tricks?
Oh, you know, I thought we had something left for maybe the last few laps, but I guess Alex did a better job of saving fuel than I did, because we kind of ran out with about 3 to go. So fortunately didn't get the last 3 laps that I wanted to try, but, you know, Nick did a great job in the first stint, and, you know, at least we can race with those 99 guys now, so hopefully we can take this to Montreal, and the Cone Racing guys will get their first win there.
Nick, this is your best finish of the year. We talked at the beginning of the race how if this is the missing puzzle that the 75 car needed, obviously it's helping.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great run today. I mean, Colin obviously did an awesome job there, you know, the second stint. And as he said, we were not quite as good on fuel. Otherwise, I think we had a better car because, you know, Colin was really consistent there in the high 22. So, as he said, we go to Montreal in a couple of weeks, and we're going to get him there.
The 75 car sure looked good, but they're still looking for that first win.
Yeah, still a source of frustration, but very good championship points for Colin Brown's effort, and well done to Nick Johnson in his first drive in the 75 as we take a look at the results. And what a day for Memo Gidley and Max Angelelli. The 10 car, the SunTrust Pontiac, has never finished off the podium here at Barber Motorsports Park since they first came in 2004. And what a qualifying effort, what a start. Albeit a short run, it was a good run by Memo Gidley.
It was a great run by Memo Gidley. And Memo, when we see Max there with the problems at the end, no one could say that he didn't give 110%. Problems with the cool suit throughout the race for Max?
Yeah, it was very intermittent, and he ran a really long stint. And you know, I know he's going to be okay, but he's definitely suffering from a lot of heat exhaustion right now. So it's hard to be real happy to finish third with him, you know, not here with me. But man, I take my hat off to the guy. I've always raced against him, and a lot of respect for that guy. But he did a great job, and hope to see him down here soon.
Well, congratulations on a great finish, and our hearts are with Max right now, guys.
Yes, absolutely. We wish him well in his recovery. Very hot, hard day's work here in Birmingham, Alabama. Quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap things up from round 10 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Final thoughts, final conversations from Barber Motorsports Park here in Alabama. What a day's work, what a race. And if you've just tuned in, the 99 dominated again, but it was a really tight finish. And our points leader is still Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, Scott Pruitt's still holding on to that championship. He's already in street clothes. He's trying to get out of here and catch a flight. But, Scott, at what point in time in the race do you look at it and say, it's just points racing right now, I got to stay up front?
About the green flag. Hi to my family at home. You know, the car ran good. Telmex guys, again, Ganassi guys, we did a great job in the pits. We got what we could out of it. I mean, the car was definitely quicker than what it showed. I mean, I think we had probably the 4th or 5th quickest lap of the race. But when you're stuck back there, this is just a difficult track to pass on, and we just couldn't go anywhere. So we were just kind of watching the mirror and watching the 60 and watching the 58 in front of me, and we see the 10 right in front of him. So, yeah, points racing. But, I mean, we're going at it, but at the end of the day, it's still about points.
Consistency, it's what wins championships, guys.
Let's take a look at it. Coming into the next round at Montreal, Pruitt will carry an 11-point lead, so he lost 4 to Angelelli. But look at the hard-charging combination of Gurney and Fogarty. They're only 2 behind the axe, so it is getting tight as we head to Canada. But first, let's head back to the pits.
Well, we know Max Angelelli had problems with the heat today. Also, Darren Law and David Donahue, too. David, you really tried to make a couple runs at the SunTrust car. You'd charge, and then you'd fall back again, but you just couldn't get them.
Yeah, first of all, hi again to Scott's family back at home. Sorry I finished in front of them. But, you know, now I know how Calvin feels. That was a hard stint. And it seemed like I would burn up my left rear whenever I got a kind of a run on Max. He made a couple errors, and I just wasn't in a position to take advantage of it. And, of course, I had Scott right behind me, and I had legs on him in a couple places, and just like Ohio, he had legs on me, and at places he just couldn't do anything with them. So it was a bit of a repeat, and then at the end, I could pull a little bit of a gap on him. It was just a matter of how big a mistake I made and how much I took care of my tires.
Well, a real strong run by these two, and initially when David Donahue got out of the Red Bull car, he went into a trailer, laid down, put some ice on himself because he was just waiting to possibly pass out. It didn't happen, so that's why he came out and talked to us. Lee?
Yeah, the guys have really earned their paychecks today here in Alabama. SunTrust Improve Your Position Award winner today for round 10, starting 14th, finishing 7th. We congratulate the Mike Shank Racing Lexus, the number 6 of Ian James and John Pugh. Well done, they're our SunTrust winners today. Well, I guess I have to say and ask you guys final thoughts. I know focus is on the heat, the exhaustion, the fatigue.
Well, it was tough on that, but I'll tell you what I'm looking at, and that's the fact that the field is caught up somewhat with the 99. And going into the next couple of races with the GT cars being mixed in, I think we're going to have a real war on our hands.
I think you're spot on there, Dorsey. I think if we'd had GT cars here today, the outcome could have been a little bit different. But Alex Gurney, what a superb drive here today. Withstood that pressure, never put it wrong by an inch, Lee. And that's just remarkable seeing the maturity. He's had the speed all along, but now they're getting that confidence factor. And that's something that you really can't put a value on.
And it's difficult to stop too once they've got that momentum. Well, we head north, well north, to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. The next round of the Rolex Sports Car Series. We're sharing that event with the NASCAR Busch Series. A lot of excitement about that, seeing both cars on that fabulous circuit. We did 99 laps today, and it was car 99 that prevailed once again. Another super performance by everyone here at the Barber Motorsports Park Complex, and another great race in the Rolex Sports Car Series. The championship is far from over. On behalf of the entire Speed crew, we say happy birthday again, Calvin Fish, and we'll tell the audience you're not really 50. See you next time, folks.